The great beyond. A vast world that had already fallen into deathly silence. It was separately distinguished from the 9 heavens, yet also formed a world of its own. After traveling through spacetime for half a month, Su Zimo finally appeared in a certain space. His figure became solid as he arrived in the depths of the great beyond. Su Zimo looked around. This place seemed to be a mountain range. He rose into the air and stood in the firmament, wanting to overlook this land. But it was very strange. Although the void of the great beyond did not prohibit flight, there seemed to be an invisible mist in the void that obstructed his vision. This prevented Su Zimo from seeing the distant path clearly. All around him appeared to be mountain ranges. These mountain ranges wound and twisted like startling dragons in flight, extending and disappearing into the mist. Su Zimo was in no hurry to search for the desolate tree, because he had no target. It would be impossible to search like a headless fly. He wanted to first find the natives of the great beyond, especially some people familiar with the great beyond. Perhaps he could obtain useful intelligence. Although this was a mountain range, by rights it should have been densely forested, deep and dark. But this great beyond was filled everywhere with the edicts of desolation. It wasn't hard to imagine that in other places, plants simply couldn't survive. Even in the mountain forests, the trees all looked dispirited, as if they might wither at any moment. Their leaves had already turned yellow, their trunks thin and weak. The sky of the great beyond had unpredictable weather. Suddenly it began to rain. Moreover, the rain grew heavier and heavier. Like a downpour, all things fell silent. In the sound of rain, a carriage accompanied by low roars broke the atmosphere unique to this heavy rain. This carriage was clearly extraordinary at first glance. The carriage was constructed from a type of ancient witherwood. It was no exaggeration to say that this ancient witherwood was one of the most precious timber materials in the great beyond. The great beyond was filled everywhere with the edict of desolation. Any living being had to be deeply affected by it, especially flowers, grass, and trees, these living beings that survived by relying on the power of the earth. No matter how ancient the trees, their speed of withering and dying in the great beyond was at least dozens of times, even 100 times faster than in the outside world. But there were always some special things in the world. This ancient witherwood was one of them. Standing in the great beyond, not only was it unaffected by the edict of desolation, but it actually absorbed the edict of desolation to strengthen itself. It could be said that without external intervention, this ancient witherwood could be immortal and indestructible. The carriage had ancient witherwood as its main body, and the carriage curtain was made from 9 wilderness hide. Speaking of this 9 wilderness hide, its origins were even greater. The first fierce beast of the great beyond. The hide of the wilderness beast. This was enough to show that the carriage was extraordinary, and the person inside had an even more noble status. However, despite all this, at this moment the carriage was moving at flying speed, as if fleeing. The old man guarding beside the carriage, though his aura was powerful, had blood-stained clothes and a grave expression. "Young miss, once we exit this 5-ghost forest, we won't need to fear," the old man said. "Outside this forest for 10 million miles of territory, it's all the Luo clan's domain." The carriage fell silent for a while, not knowing what she was thinking about. Only a gentle female voice was heard. "Grand Elder, if the situation turns bad, you should abandon me and flee. After all, those things are coming for me. Why does young miss say such things? This old life of mine was given by Madame." A flash of fierceness crossed the old man's face. "If they want to harm you, they'll have to step over my corpse first." "Oh!" A figure suddenly appeared ahead. The old man's expression changed drastically. "How can this be? So fast?" The carriage instantly stopped, and the treasure scale fire horse pulling the carriage nearly toppled to the ground. Because of the excessive speed and sudden braking, it was almost flung away by inertia. "I'll fight you to the death," the old man raged. He directly drew the long sword at his waist. Imperial might rolled from his body, tearing apart the withered trees all around. Although this old man had just entered the Grand Emperor realm, His momentum was like a rainbow, his blood energy surging, as if he had already prepared to burn his essence blood and fight to the death. Excuse me, where in the great beyond is this place? The old man had just charged forward. Who knew the youth blocking the way would only ask for directions with a puzzled expression. This left the old man startled and suspicious for a moment. "You're not from the ghost race?" the old man asked. "What ghost race?" The youth shook his head. This youth was precisely Su Zimo. He had been sent to the depths of the great beyond by the true martial progenitor, and when he awoke, he had already appeared in this deep forest. Su Zimo was completely in the dark. He understood nothing about this great beyond. He had just walked a short distance when he encountered these natives and thought to ask for directions. "Boy, I don't have time to waste with you." The old man waved his hand. He said impatiently, "If you want to live, then flee far away." The old man patted the treasure scale fire horse in front of the carriage, wanting to continue their escape. However, he was blocked by Su Zimo. "I won't delay you long. I just want to ask, where nearby is there a place where humans live?" "Boy, you." The old man was furious and was about to say something. Suddenly, a sound of air being cut came from behind. From within this deep forest, the sky, which was already somewhat gray due to the pouring rain, was now being swallowed by darkness from behind. However, if one looked carefully, one would discover this wasn't darkness at all, but clearly a mass of mist. Wherever the mist passed, not a blade of grass grew. "Boy, you've ruined us now." The old man glared at Su Zimo. Then he stood ready for battle, vigilantly watching the black mist. "Kiki kiki." A strange laughter came from within the black mist. "Old man, in the Five Ghost Forest, where can you flee to?" From within the black mist, invisible creatures were hissing. "May I ask which senior you are?" the old man asked gravely. "Very well, before you die I'll let you be a knowing ghost. I am Fierce One," the voice from within the black mist said. This caused the old man's expression to change dramatically. "Fierce One, one of the 5 fierce ones? You must know that in this 5-ghost forest, there were countless ghosts and monsters. But the truly powerful monsters were just those few. And the 5 fierce ones were the type of ghosts and monsters that made people tremble in fear at the mere mention. The old man had originally wanted to try and see if he could find a sliver of hope by fighting to the death. But encountering one of the 5 fierce ones, the chances were likely already slim. However, the old man was unwilling to wait for death. Instead, he continued, "So it's Senior of the 5 fierce ones. I wonder if Senior could show mercy? We can agree to any conditions. The young miss in this carriage is the young miss of the Luo clan. I believe Senior should have heard of the Luo clan's reputation." "Old man, this is why I say you're stupid," the existence in the black mist said mockingly. "Do you think your encounter with me is truly a coincidence?" Upon these words, the old man's expression changed again. "Could Senior have been specifically waiting for us? But we have no connection with Senior, no grudge or enmity." Saying this, the old man suddenly froze in expression. He suddenly understood. Hired assassination. The cost of hiring one of the 5 fierce ones was probably beyond imagination. Ordinary people wouldn't even have the qualifications. "I understand now. Someone doesn't want the young miss to return to the Luo clan," the old man suddenly said with a bitter smile. "You're not entirely stupid," Fierce One replied. "Outside this 5-ghost forest, for 10 million miles of territory, the Luo clan reigned supreme and had the final say. Among the surrounding forces capable of hiring one of the 5 fierce ones from 5-ghost forest, there were probably only a very few. With a little deduction, those who had dealings with them were probably only the Luo clan. The young miss was the flesh and blood of the Luo clan's patriarch. Someone didn't want her to return, and moreover, paid a high price to ambush and kill her on the way back. The old man had originally anticipated this. He just hadn't expected that the other party would be so ruthless. They even hired Fierce One, one of the 5 fierce ones. This showed the weight of their determination. "I am just a mortal," This trip to the Luo clan is not to seize anything. It's merely to fulfill my mother's dying wish. From within the carriage came a woman's low sigh. Why must it be like this? Yes, why must it be like this? But she also understood. The human heart was unfathomable. Although she said this, whether others believed it was difficult to say. The simplest solution was that dead people were most trustworthy. Dead people wouldn't deceive anyone. All right, it's time for you to hit the road. The black mist began to churn. Moreover, during the recent conversation, this black mist had secretly surrounded the area to prevent the group from escaping. Wait a moment, the old man hurriedly said. Senior, whatever price the other party is giving you, we can give you several times that amount. You can't give what I need, the voice in the black mist said disdainfully. How can a bastard give it to me? Upon these words, the old man's expression filled with rage. These words made him very angry. The young miss had been living away from home since childhood. This return home had no other intentions. Who would have thought she'd be insulted in every way? Even if I die, today I must tear off a layer of your skin. Sigh. I say everyone, if you're done talking, could someone point me in a direction? Su Zimo's bored voice suddenly came from the side. Where nearby are there many humans? Or are there any cities? Su Zimo's voice seemed to interrupt the grave atmosphere around them. From within the darkness, a voice snarled, Boy, death is at your door, and you're still thinking about how to get out? At this time, a woman's voice came from within the carriage. Young master, after leaving this five-ghost forest, there are human territories everywhere, cities everywhere. However, this incident was caused by me. I've implicated you, young master. I'm truly sorry. This young woman apologizes to you here. Young miss, if he hadn't blocked us, we might not have been caught up to, the old man said with some dissatisfaction. Stop arguing. I'll send you all on your way together. The black mist roared. That fierce one was already somewhat impatient. With a boom, the black mist condensed into a giant face and directly devoured them. What terrified the old man was that under the black mist's envelopment, the imperial might throughout his body seemed to be suppressed. His surging blood energy also stagnated. The old man's expression turned ugly. Rumor had it that after countless years of fusion, the ghost mist of the five fierce ones had already been tainted with the Edict of Desolation. Now it seemed to be true. The Edict of Desolation were destroying his body, as if he were like those growing trees, beginning to wither bit by bit. The black mist grew thicker and thicker. That laughter added several more degrees of terror to this deep forest shrouded in heavy rain. Boring. Su Zimo lifted his eyelids slightly and said indifferently. Shadow Tyrant behind him remained unsheathed. Merely a trace of blade light leaked out. The blade light seemed to carry heaven-shocking might, directly tearing apart all the black mist. What is this? From within the black mist, Fierce One was roaring. However, in the next moment, that blade light swept across vertically and horizontally, directly striking the black mist. A scream rang out, and all the black mist began to converge. I truly misjudged. You're a cultivator. The black mist gathered together. An old man who looked like withered bones appeared. This old man didn't have a trace of blood energy in his body, as if a layer of skin was covering bones. His eyes were deeply sunken, with black mist emanating from them. This old man's body was wrapped in a tattered and dilapidated robe. Boy, now that you've seen my true form, no matter who you are, you will surely die today. Fierce One roared. The tattered robe on his body began to dance. Countless black mist converged toward him. Human calamity. Fierce One's voice fell. From his body, countless skulls, little ghosts, monsters, and corpse puppets all attacked Su Zimo. Young miss, be careful. The old man hurriedly protected the carriage, saying vigilantly, I'm fine. Grand Elder, go help that young master. The woman in the carriage replied, My task is to protect the young miss. The old man shook his head in reply. On the other side, Su Zimo looked at the endless stream of ghosts and monsters in the black mist. He waved his right hand forward. With this wave in everyone's eyes, there was clearly nothing there. But invisibly, a force that could destroy everything and was irresistible fell upon Fierce One. In an instant a scream rang out. That force annihilated all the black mist, directly splitting Fierce One into countless fragments of broken bones. "You? Who are you?" "A passerby," Su Zimo said indifferently. He stepped forward, directly stepping on Fierce One's fragmented bones. The sound of crack, crack, crack could be heard as the bones were crushed into powder. "Even if you kill me, you won't be able to leave this five-ghost forest." Su Zimo paid no attention to Fierce One's threat, a ghost creature that hadn't even reached the Saint Sovereign realm. For someone like him at Infinite Tao realm, there truly was no challenge. "I saved your lives. As repayment, take me to a human city." Su Zimo turned his head, looking at the old man who stood dumbfounded in front of the carriage. "Senior," the old man stammered in reply, "I was blind. Please don't blame me, Senior." "Relax. If I wanted to blame you, you'd already be a corpse by now," Su Zimo said indifferently. Just at this moment the carriage curtain was lifted. A woman walked out from within. This woman wore a white embroidered long dress, spotlessly clean. She gave off a very delicate feeling. An oval face, a high-bridged nose, and slightly disheveled beautiful hair from fleeing. This was a beautiful woman. However, her eyes were bright, her teeth white and lips red, giving people a very comfortable feeling. "Luo Mingyue greets Senior and thanks Senior for the life-saving grace. It wasn't to save you. I just needed someone to lead the way." Su Zimo waved his hand. "Even so, Senior still saved us," Luo Mingyue replied. "All right, whatever. If you want to thank me, hurry up and take me out of here," Su Zimo said. He was too lazy to accept any gratitude. After all, the two of them were on different levels. "Young master, rest assured. If there are no accidents, we can leave here in 3 days at most," Luo Mingyue explained. However, at this time, Su Zimo was already too lazy to pay attention to her. Luo Mingyue could only return to the carriage. The carriage moved forward, led by the old man. As for Su Zimo, he walked through the air behind everyone. After traveling for half a day, it seemed that deep night had arrived. In this five-ghost forest, the mist grew heavier and heavier, and the old man could only stop. "Senior, this mist is too heavy. It's easy to lose direction. How about we rest for tonight?" the old man asked tentatively. Su Zimo looked around. This mist was strange. Even he couldn't dispel it, so he could only nod. He waved his large hand, and in this five-ghost forest, several large trees immediately crashed to the ground. Flames danced in his palm. In an instant a campfire appeared. Seeing this scene, the old man's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly reminded, "Senior, fire cannot be seen within this five-ghost forest." "Why?" Su Zimo asked. "The Yin energy here is extremely heavy, and ghost creatures run rampant. If there are flames, I'm afraid it will attract the ghost sovereign," the old man said. "Are they very strong?" Su Zimo asked. "Every ghost sovereign is at the Saint Sovereign level. Never mind the five-ghost forest, even in the outside world, they are invincible existences," the old man explained. "No problem." Su Zimo waved his hand. "Saint Sovereign? Mere ants." Through condensing the absolute annihilation Tao fruit, Su Zimo had preliminarily glimpsed and sensed the power of the infinite Tao realm. It was no exaggeration to say that an infinite Tao could casually erase a Saint Sovereign. Just like before, Su Zimo considered himself invincible among Saint Sovereigns. But when facing infinite Tao-level cultivators, he still had no power to resist whatsoever. He even had to rely on the rules within the God world to barely dodge half a move by luck. This was enough to imagine how unfathomable the infinite Tao was. "Oh!" Hearing Su Zimo's words, the old man didn't know what else to say. The lively flames danced, beginning to dispel the surrounding mist bit by bit. The crackling sound of burning firewood rang out. In this silent darkness, it seemed particularly jarring. The old man and the woman called Luo Mingyue came forward together. This woman should have no cultivation. She carefully stayed to one side, taking out several dry cakes from a handkerchief in her sleeve and placing them on the fire to toast. When we were fleeing, we lost all our luggage. In this five-ghost forest, there are only ghost creatures, not even a single demon beast. Otherwise, why would the young miss be so down and out? The old man sighed. It doesn't matter. Luo Mingyue smiled and shook her head. I've never considered myself any sort of young miss. Moreover, Mother said that only by eating bitterness can one become superior to others. The dry cakes were quickly toasted crispy. The woman handed over a piece of dry cake, hesitating slightly. She held it out before Su Zimo. Young master, would you like some? Finish eating and sleep early. Su Zimo waved his hand. Tonight, no matter what sounds you hear, don't come out. Thank you, young master. Luo Mingyue hurriedly thanked him. After eating the dry cakes, fortunately they had a water flask with them. She then returned to the carriage to rest. As for the old man, he both healed his injuries and guarded the surroundings. In the daytime battle with Fierce One, he had ultimately still been injured. Of course, if Su Zimo hadn't intervened, he probably wouldn't have just been injured, he would likely have lost his life here. Oh, night, dark and profound, quiet and terrifying, as if there were a pair of invisible claws scratching through the void, making shadows involuntarily arise in one's heart. A woman's weak crying voice rang out not far away. The old man instantly opened his eyes. A flash of brilliant light swept by. His vision pierced through the darkness, seeing a white figure, blurry in the distance. It seemed to be a woman with a graceful figure. For some unknown reason, the old man's heart seemed bewitched, and he actually stood up, wanting to walk over step by step. Sit down and sleep. A voice suddenly exploded in his eardrums like thunder. The old man gave a start. His face was pale, his forehead covered in cold sweat. What just happened to me? Close your eyes. Don't look at any sounds you hear, Su Zimo said indifferently. If there's a next time, I won't save you. The old man froze, then hurriedly sat in meditation to stabilize his mind. He knew that just now his mind must have lost control. You must know, although he had only just entered the Grand Emperor realm, he was still a Grand Emperor. To actually have his mind seduced, this was enough to imagine the opponent's power. A ghost sovereign? The old man didn't dare to guess. He only felt that tonight's temperature was somewhat cold. It seemed that the sound of footsteps rang out. These footsteps were very jarring, as if someone were dragging shoes while walking forward. The old man paid no attention. He knew that with Su Zimo present, if even Su Zimo couldn't handle it, his resistance would also be a dead end. Oh, this weather is so cold. Can this old man come over to borrow some fire? Su Zimo opened his eyes. He saw an old man with a hunched body slowly walking over. The old man was smiling, but his smile gave people an extremely creepy feeling. What should I call you? Su Zimo asked. Call me Netherprime, the old man replied. Do you have the final say in this deep forest? Su Zimo asked. This old man's words still carry some weight. The old man smiled. That's perfect. We want to leave this five-ghost forest. I'm too lazy to kill some ants. You can conveniently clear the road for me, Su Zimo said. Hearing these words, the old man's eyes narrowed. He laughed eerily. This young master's tone is truly quite large. Su Zimo glanced at him. Invisibly, a suppressing force permeated the air. Not good. The old man's expression changed slightly, as if he sensed something. His seemingly aged body burst forth with an unimaginable power. Sounds came from within his body. The old man's figure moved rapidly, like a black bolt of lightning, trying to flee into the distance. Su Zimo let out a heavy cold snort. This sound was like thunder descending from heaven, with majestic heavenly might pressing down. An invisible blade light descended from the sky, directly falling upon the old man. A scream rang out, and the black mist on the old man's body faded considerably. The blade light roared, pressing the old man's figure to the ground, unable to move. "You? Who are you?" the old man asked in shock. Originally, in his perception, Su Zimo's might was not apparent, completely ordinary. Who would have thought that with just a casual move, that blade light actually broke through his dense ghost mist, suppressing him without any ability to resist. This kind of existence was probably not an ordinary Saint Sovereign. "What do you think of my proposal just now?" Su Zimo didn't answer his question but asked in return. "What if I don't agree?" Netherprime asked. "Do you think a useless insect like you still has meaning in living?" Su Zimo asked. "Even if you kill me, you still won't be able to leave this five-ghost forest." The old man laughed eerily. "This place has long been cursed. Those who come and go either get killed or assimilated. Even if you're an invincible Saint Sovereign, you can't change anything." "Enough yapping." Before his words were finished, Su Zimo's large foot had already stomped down, directly flattening his head. This old man's corpse twisted and actually transformed into a black mist trying to escape. How could Su Zimo let it have its way? The flames in his hand burned, directly rising to burn the sky, covering this entire area of heaven and earth. Amid a series of explosive sounds, the old man's ghost rolled and struggled in the flames. Before long, it was annihilated in the void. This ghost sovereign Netherprime had already reached the Saint Realm. But before Su Zimo, he was still casually extinguished. This was enough to imagine the power of the infinite Tao realm. "Oh!" After quite a while, the old man slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Su Zimo and stammered, You killed a ghost sovereign. What about it?" Su Zimo asked. The old man swallowed hard. His head shook like a rattle drum. "Senior is peerlessly invincible. I dare not speak carelessly. Who is the strongest in this five-ghost forest?" Su Zimo asked again. "Actually, I'm not certain either. Some say it's the several great ghost sovereigns. Others say that ghost gods exist here," the old man replied. "It's just that ordinary people, never mind ghost gods, they probably can't even see the ghost sovereigns. Existences at the level of the five fierce ones can already kill many people." "What are the consequences of me killing a ghost sovereign?" Su Zimo asked. "Nothing more than two possibilities. Either the five-ghost forest fears Senior's might and doesn't dare provoke us, or the numerous ghosts and monsters of five-ghost forest unite together and will kill us," the old man speculated. "Which do you think is more reliable?" "The second one, I suppose," the old man replied tentatively. "In this realm, the five-ghost forest has always done as it pleases. Even behemoths like the Luo clan have to take detours when they encounter them. This is the first time in years they've suffered such a huge loss. I'm afraid they won't let this go. I actually hope they all come together. I can conveniently exterminate them all at once." Su Zimo smiled. "Otherwise, walking along the road with them like flies, it's annoying." The old man gave an awkward smile, not daring to respond. This wasn't something he could participate in. "Tell me about the situation in the Great Beyond," Su Zimo asked. Since he had nothing better to do anyway, he might as well learn about matters concerning the Great Beyond. "What does Senior wish to know?" the old man asked. "Actually, the Great Beyond is far too vast. I don't even know where to begin." "Talk about what you know," Su Zimo said. "The Great Beyond has 3 sects, 1 gate and 1 palace. These 5 powers are the strongest existences in the Great Beyond. They rule over the entire Great Beyond. The 3 sects refer to the Heart Sword Ancient Sect, the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect, and the Azure Cloud Ancient Sect. The 1 gate refers to the Primordial Demon Gate, and the 1 palace is the Jade Maiden Palace. These 5 powers are the undisputed overlords of the Great Beyond. They have ruled the Great Beyond for billions of years. Beneath the 5 great powers, there are millions of relatively weaker powers. Our Luo clan is one of them. The Luo clan is located in the west of the Great Beyond Inland and was founded by the Grand Martial Sovereign Luo Ningguang. Seeing that the old man was about to start discussing the Luo clan's history, Su Zimo hurriedly interrupted him. He asked, "Do you know if there are any special places in this great beyond?" "What kind of special places?" "Places where flowers, grass, and trees flourish," Su Zimo replied. "For plants, the great beyond is hell. Apart from a few rare plants, the plants here don't survive long." Su Zimo couldn't directly ask about the desolate tree. So he said instead, "Then do you know where in this great beyond has the best scenery?" The old man lowered his head in thought. "The great beyond has scenery for 1,000 days, but the edge of heaven stands on its own league." Just then, from within the carriage, Luo Mingyue's voice came. "For scenic places in the great beyond, it's probably the edge of heaven." "What kind of place is that?" Su Zimo asked. "No one knows and very few people have been there," Luo Mingyue said. "I've only read about it in books. Legend has it that place is a paradise. It's the core territory of the Jade Maiden Palace." Jade Maiden Palace. Su Zimo nodded slightly, silently remembering this place in his heart. No matter what, he had to go take a look. If there were any gains, it would be better than being a headless fly. Oh, this night was very quiet. The death of the ghost sovereign Netherprime caused a huge uproar in the Five Ghost Forest. The death of a ghost sovereign, one could imagine. In the Five Ghost Forest, in a cave filled with ghost mist, vaguely, several figures wandered in the darkness. "That fool Netherprime is dead." "I know. He was killed by a human. It seems an interesting existence has come to our Five Ghost Forest." "Kill or release?" a hoarse voice asked. "If we release him, how will our ghost race maintain our standing?" "Kill, but we must be strategic about it," a voice responded. "Send others to probe his strength. Then we'll ambush and kill him." "What if we're no match?" another voice asked. "You don't expect Lord Ghost God to wipe our asses for us, do you? Dead bird. Don't forget that our Five Ghost Forest is itself a special place." With these words, everyone had no more objections. "Fierce One is also dead. Let the other 4 of the 5 Fierce Ones lead the bloodthirsty ghost race to test his depth." The sky brightened considerably. The rain still hadn't stopped. A night without words. Not only did the original downpour become more violent, but in the deep forest, cold winds also began to blow. These winds seemed unusual. Even the old man, an existence who had just entered the Grand Emperor realm, felt the cold. "It's lunar wind," the old man said with a frown. "I've heard others say that when lunar wind reaches a certain scale, wherever it passes, it can corrode everything. Let's keep moving. Try to leave here tomorrow." Su Zimo yawned and said, as the carriage moved forward again. Before long, the precious horse pulling the carriage seemed to sense something. It began to neigh restlessly. Moreover, it broke free from the reins and fled. Su Zimo looked up and saw that in the Five Ghost Forest, black shadows began floating about. Just like black phantoms. These black shadows were full of malevolent energy. Laughter merged with laughter, continuously echoing through the deep forest. "Distinguished guest has come from afar. The Five Ghost Forest welcomes you." "Playing tricks," Su Zimo snorted coldly. With a wave of his large hand, powerful force surged forth. The primal Tao of thunder surged in his hand. Although he had currently condensed his Tao fruit, he ultimately still didn't possess a primordial spirit and couldn't use the power of edicts. But his current primal Tao power was over 100 times stronger than before. The Tao of thunder exploded in the void. In front, countless thunderbolts flew through the deep forest like thunder dragons. A sea of thunder purgatory, with heavenly thunder rolling. Before long, countless screams rang out. Within the thunder, for figures with powerful auras were forced to reveal their true forms. Among these people were 1 man and 1 woman, 1 old man and 1 child. "It's the other 4 of the 5 Fierce Ones," the old man beside the carriage hurriedly said. "You killed Fierce One. They've come for revenge. If they want revenge, they should at least be stronger than the ghost sovereign Netherprime. These are all stinking fish and rotten shrimp." Su Zimo shook his head. "Kill!" On the opposite side, with the low roars of the 4 Fierce Ones, countless ghost clan members surrounded Suzimo and began attacking. Hell is empty, and the devils are in the human realm. Countless ghosts and monsters roared as they attacked. There were disemboweled ghosts dripping with fresh blood, ghosts with eyes stuffed full of roundworms, giant-like powerful ghosts. The appearance of countless ghosts and monsters even affected the surrounding space. For a moment, bone-chilling lunar wind continuously blew through the entire deep forest. Eerie laughter and inhuman crying merged together simultaneously. Suzimo slowly drew Shadow Tyrant from his waist. Shadow Tyrant seemed very calm, as if these ghosts and monsters couldn't pique its interest. Suzimo flicked the blade lightly with his finger. Heaven-shaking blade light burst forth from Shadow Tyrant. These ghosts and monsters attacked very quickly, but Shadow Tyrant's blade light was even faster. The blade light swept across tens of millions of miles. In an instant, wherever the blade light passed, not a blade of grass grew. As if everything had frozen. Whether ghosts and monsters or sounds, all remained motionless. After a brief moment, as a light breeze blew past, all the ghosts and monsters turned to powder, scattering into the void. One blade slaughtered all of hell. Too weak. Suzimo shook his head. He raised his head and looked toward the distance, at the only 4 remaining figures. These were the 4 fierce ones. With this look, those 4 figures seemed to have lost their souls. Flee! The 4 roared. They had originally been ordered by the ghost sovereigns to come investigate Suzimo's capabilities. Who would have thought they'd discover nothing? That person was unfathomably deep. One blade had slaughtered the entire ghost clan army. How could they dare remain here? The 4 fierce ones wanted to flee but felt their legs were as heavy as if filled with lead blocks. They couldn't move their feet at all. To be precise, the spirit force within their bodies had stagnated. They had been suppressed. Footsteps sounded. Suzimo was seen carrying Shadow Tyrant, slowly walking over step by step. The blade of Shadow Tyrant, with its powerful blade light, showed its sharpness unreservedly. What the hell do you want to do? Fierce 3, one of the 4 fierce ones, asked. I originally didn't want to kill you ants. Why did you have to provoke me? Suzimo shook his head. We were just following orders, Fierce 3 replied. Spare our lives. We won't participate in this matter anymore. Too late. Suzimo raised his blade. Like cutting watermelons, 1 blade per person, he chopped off the heads of the 4 fierce ones one by one, until the last of the 5 fierce ones, Fierce 5. This one no longer begged for its life. Instead, it laughed madly. You won't leave here alive. We'll be waiting for you below. After killing the 4 fierce ones, Suzimo frowned slightly. Let's go, he said to the old man beside the carriage. The old man dared not voice any opinion. The carriage traveled rapidly through the forest. The old man seemed to sense something. After hesitating for a long time, he finally said, Senior, have you noticed that the ghost mist in the forest is becoming more and more concentrated? By rights, we've already moved away from the core of the 5 ghost forest. The further out we go, the weaker the ghost mist should be. Just relax. I'll keep you safe, Suzimo replied. Finally, after traveling for another day, at nightfall, everyone could see the withered trees gradually disappearing outside the 5 ghost forest. This meant they had reached the edge of the deep forest. We should be able to get out tonight, the old man said excitedly. During this time, the oppressive atmosphere in the 5 ghost forest had nearly driven him to depression. Move back, Suzimo suddenly said. The old man froze, then hurriedly drove the carriage backward. A few seconds later, a black hole appeared in the ground where he had been standing, as if it could devour everything, with solemn ghost mist abundant. This is. The old man's face showed contemplation. Not knowing what he remembered, his expression changed dramatically. Ghost holes appear frequently. Black crows descend from heaven. The ghost domain has opened. As his words fell, a flock of crows flew overhead. Occasionally a few feathers fell from corners. When those feathers touched the ground, they transformed into black holes. It's the ghost domain. They've opened the ghost domain. the old man shouted. Suzimo was much calmer. What? Still want to continue being a cowardly turtle? The next moment, as black mist surged around them, 3 figures had somehow already appeared around Suzimo. The Purgatory Ghost Sovereign, the other Shore Ghost Sovereign, the Yama Ghost Sovereign. We have been waiting here for quite some time. The 3 Ghost Sovereigns spoke simultaneously. Are the 3 of you planning to fight me to the death? Suzimo asked. You killed the ghosts of our 5 Ghost Forest. Do you think you can leave safely? The Purgatory Ghost Sovereign said. What do you want? Ghost Sovereign Netherprime is dead. I see your skills are quite good. Why don't you stay and take its place? Are you even worthy? Suzimo said coldly. With the Ghost Domain opened, even if you're an invincible Saint Sovereign, today you must accept defeat. The Purgatory Ghost Sovereign replied just as impolitely. Then let's try, Suzimo said indifferently. Blade light crisscrossed in his hand. This blade light split the void, carrying traces of the Tao of Annihilation. He swung his blade forward. Powerful force burst forth. His figure had already disappeared from its original position, leaving only afterimages sweeping past. So fast! Even the other Shore Ghost Sovereign was startled. The blade light had already struck the Purgatory Ghost Sovereign. Without any resistance, he directly split the Purgatory Ghost Sovereign in 2. Eerie laughter rang out. In the abundant ghost mist, the Purgatory Ghost Sovereign's figure returned to its original state. With the Ghost Domain opened, you can't kill me. How can there be true immortality in this world? Suzimo asked in return. Around him, the fire primal Tao surged. Scorching flames surged forth, like a blazing sun hanging high in the void. The surrounding ghost mist seemed to have encountered its nemesis. It began to melt away. Aren't you using Sword Primal Tao? How do you have Fire Primal Tao too? The several ghost sovereigns were greatly shocked. You must know, the Taos of the world mutually generate and restrain each other. Although their ghost mist was difficult to deal with, it was precisely restrained by flames and light-type Taos. Damn it! Damn it! The Yama Ghost Sovereign cursed continuously. The fierce ones were also useless. So many people died, yet they didn't even investigate this person's true capabilities. So what do we do next? The Purgatory Ghost Sovereign asked. What to do? Let the blade in my hand tell you. Suzimo snorted coldly. Shadow Tyrant, carrying both light and flame laws, directly annihilated all ghost mist. The Taos of the world, I summon them at will. Ghost Domain, nourish 10,000 ghosts. The 3 ghost sovereigns shouted in unison. Their hands formed seals, and solemn ghost mist marks floated in the void. This 5 ghost forest had long since transformed into a ghost domain purgatory. Countless ghosts and monsters took shape. Endless slaughter. Today, you 3 will surely die. As Suzimo's words fell, one blade shattered 10,000 ghosts. Instantly, all the little ghosts were slaughtered. That blade had already approached the Purgatory Ghost Sovereign's neck. Kill! Solemn killing intent burst forth from Suzimo's body. Rumble, 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 rumble. Under the twisted ghost mist around the Purgatory Ghost Sovereign, Shadow Tyrant drove straight down. Shadow Tyrant had already evolved into a blazing sun. It directly pierced through the Purgatory Ghost Sovereign's neck. The ghost mist was incinerated by the scorching heat amid a series of screams. The Purgatory Ghost Sovereign's godsoul, including his physical body, were all annihilated within. The other 2 ghost sovereigns saw this scene. They both felt the threat of death. Ghost Domain, Heaven-Earth Burial. The 2 formed seals with their hands again. In a short time, they had already formed tens of thousands of seals. One could see this was the Ghost Domain's ultimate killing move. Heaven and earth seemed to be weeping. Under the shroud of black mist, flying sand and rolling stones, darkness descended, and ghost mist was solemn. Heaven and earth seemed about to be devoured. Tornado storms blew forth. This was lunar wind. Wherever it passed, not a blade of grass grew. Moreover, the ghost domain sealed off the surrounding space. No one could escape. The old man, with Luo Mingyue in the carriage, both prostrated on the ground, able only to pray for Su Zimo's victory. Su Zimo raised his head. Looking at the lunar wind storm sweeping in from all directions, he sneered. Somewhat interesting. But who told you I was an invincible Saint Sovereign? His words fell. The absolute annihilation Tao fruit slowly manifested above his mind. Beneath that Tao fruit, endless power of annihilation scattered. Was Ghost Mist strong? Before the power of annihilation, it wasn't even worthy of carrying its shoes. Because when Su Zimo originally condensed this Tao fruit, he had once integrated all the world's attacks into it. Ghost Mist was naturally one of them. The power of annihilation erupted violently, with Su Zimo's blade light within it as well. Annihilate, he gave a light shout. The towering power of annihilation directly tore through the ghost domain. It obliterated all the lunar wind. Compared to the destruction of lunar wind, the power of annihilation was even more violent. Even time and space were destroyed, the earth cracked countless times. This entire 5-ghost forest seemed about to be razed to the ground. The other Shore Ghost Sovereign and Yama Ghost Sovereign saw this scene. Their expressions changed drastically. They wanted to flee but were powerless. My lord, save me! The other Shore Ghost Sovereign gave a great shout and crushed a token. This token had been given to him by the Ghost God back then. With the Ghost God in seclusion, the entire 5-ghost forest was ruled by these several great ghost sovereigns. Now encountering a powerful enemy, only the Ghost God could stop everything. The moment the Jade Pendant was crushed, the surrounding void seemed to be suppressed by some special power. Everything froze. Time and void, even everyone present couldn't move. A Tao fruit cultivator? Su Zimo frowned slightly. He let out a heavy cold snort. He was no longer what he used to be. Although not yet a Tao fruit, he was sufficient to battle Tao fruit. Who goes there? With his cold snort, the power of annihilation erupted violently, directly shattering the frozen spacetime. Somewhat interesting. A light laugh sounded. At some unknown time, a figure had already appeared in the void. Everyone looked up. This figure towered above the void, with powerful ghost mist shrouding the entire firmament. The figure wore a black battle robe. The collar was very high, wrapping around the neck. Moreover, he had long hair, purple skin, and intricate patterns on his face. He gave off an especially sinister feeling. We pay respects to Lord Ghost God. The Yama Ghost Sovereign and other Shore Ghost Sovereign hurriedly kowtowed. A bunch of useless trash. The man in the firmament snorted coldly, frightening the 2 ghost sovereigns into lowering their heads to the ground, trembling. This was enough to show the weight of this ghost god's prestige. A brat dares to run wild in my ghost forest. The man looked down at Su Zimo. He sneered, very well. Today I'll refine you into a ghost puppet to guard my ghost forest in the future. Then let's try, Su Zimo said indifferently. He likewise rose into the air, facing the ghost god from afar. I only need one move. Su Zimo smiled indifferently. Oh? This lord has never seen someone so arrogant. The ghost god laughed heartily. One move to take my life? 9 hell's desolation. Su Zimo's voice rang out like purgatory, demanding life itself. The power of annihilation soared into the sky. Immediately after, the cosmos and the firmament revealed heavenly signs. The sun and moon waxed and waned. As Shadow Tyrant struck down with one blade, the 9 netherworlds crumbled. Hell was destroyed. That blade descended, all things in the world would fall into the 9 netherworld hell. This blade struck at consciousness. It struck at the divine soul. The ghost god initially didn't pay much attention, but gradually his expression became grave. An unparalleled blade, he said indifferently. If I could strike a second blade, even infinite Tao cultivators would die, Su Zimo said. Unfortunately, this second form, I haven't yet comprehended. I truly underestimated you, the ghost god murmured to himself. He waved his right hand. A mass of black ghost mist enveloped him. Myriad ghosts prolong life, he shouted coldly. When the power of falling to the 9 netherworlds descended with overwhelming might, this ghost god seemed to have countless lives. He would die once, then resurrect again, as if some power was continuously prolonging his life. Su Zimo frowned slightly. After watching for a while, he understood the principle. This ghost god was not a true living being. He had probably long since died, or rather was already a living dead. He was using some special power to prolong his life. So as long as this power was sufficient, he could revive infinitely. Of course, this resurrection didn't include lifespan. Before opening the 12 meridian gates, true eternal life didn't exist. At most, it was a very long lifespan. In the falling 9 netherworlds, this ghost god was destroyed again and again, then resurrected again and again. Finally, after experiencing hundreds and thousands of resurrections, the ghost god walked out in a disheveled state. One should return courtesy for courtesy received, the ghost god said coldly. I also have one move. If you can receive it, I'll let you leave this 5-ghost forest safely. Saying this, in the ghost god's hand a white bone skull staff had appeared. This staff lightly tapped in the void. Infinite ghost mist rules began to permeate. These were true ghost mist rules. Ghost purgatory annihilation. In an instant, a black hole appeared in the void. Within the black hole, a power that could cause one's very soul to lose itself was gathering. This power seemed to annihilate everything. This was absolute power without any fancy tricks. Kill! One could see the ghost god was very angry this time. The power he condensed for resurrection wasn't easy. And Su Zimo's one move had cost him nearly half his power. Su Zimo saw the torrent falling from the black hole. He didn't resist, allowing that torrent to shatter the void and pierce through his body. Seeing this scene, the ghost god wasn't the least bit happy. Instead, his brow furrowed even deeper, because he saw behind Su Zimo 3 gates slowly rising. They could grant brief invincibility. When all the power fell, Su Zimo was unharmed. He looked indifferently at the ghost god. The ghost god's expression likewise changed drastically. There was something strange about this person. You must know that his previous move, the ghost god believed that even an infinite Tao cultivator would have to exert great effort to resist it. But Su Zimo simply stood there in place, yet suffered no harm whatsoever. This was because he didn't understand the ability of the Heaven Unity 3 Gates God scripture. I always keep my word. Since you received this move, you may leave this 5-ghost forest. The ghost god said indifferently. Whether I leave or not, when the hell did I need your permission? Su Zimo said indifferently. For the sake of your pitiful self-esteem? Simply put, neither of us can do anything to the other, right? Hearing this, the ghost god let out a heavy cold snort. He was a ghost god, the master of the 5-ghost forest. Naturally, he was unwilling to admit he couldn't even handle this fellow. Where are you from? The ghost god asked. Although he had long dwelt in the 5-ghost forest, he still knew something about the great beyond. Whether it was the 3 sects, 1 gate, or 1 palace. As for other powers, that was even more impossible. Are you a visitor from the 9 heavens? Su Zimo didn't answer him, only quietly looked at him. But the ghost god thought it made more and more sense. Although the great beyond and the 9 heavens weren't in the same world, the spatial barrier was extremely solid. But once strength reached a certain level, breaking through the spatial barrier wasn't impossible. Just like him, he could break through the spatial barrier. However, the ghost god was unwilling to go to the 9 heavens. It was too chaotic there. Even if an infinite Tao cultivator went, they might not be able to protect themselves. On the contrary, the situation in the great beyond was relatively clear. Between the various major powers, a delicate balance had formed. At least there wouldn't be great wars. These years, he had often heard of visitors from the 9 heavens. However, the ghost god rarely went out. This was the first time he had seen someone from the 9 heavens. He frowned. He didn't like people from the 9 heavens. Because in his view, the 9 heavens would break the tranquility of the great beyond. Not only him, many natives of the great beyond had no good feelings toward the 9 heavens. What are you people from the 9 heavens doing coming to our great beyond? the ghost god asked coldly. I heard the scenery of the great beyond is quite good. I came for tourism. Suzimo smiled. You're not welcome here, the ghost god replied. Whether I'm welcome or not, you don't have the final say, Suzimo replied. If the cultivators of my lineage all descended and trampled this great beyond, what difficulty would there be? Of course, you should be grateful that only I came this time. The ghost god felt Suzimo's words were somewhat arrogant, so he didn't want to argue much. With a wave of his large hand, the surviving Yama ghost sovereign and other shore ghost sovereign were seized. He directly threw them out of the 5 ghost forest depths. Leave as soon as possible. After the ghost god finished speaking, his figure also disappeared along with the sky full of black mist. Suzimo turned his head to look. At the edge of the 5 ghost forest, the ghost mist retreated, revealing a great road. Under normal circumstances, without the ghost race's permission, it was very difficult to leave from here. Come on, let's go. Suzimo looked at the old man. The old man hurriedly drove the carriage, leaving along the great road. Oh! Outside the 5 ghost forest, it was a plain. In the boundless plain, one could finally see a city at the end of heaven and earth. Although blurry and unclear, at least there were signs of human habitation. We're out! Finally out! The old man took a deep breath and shouted excitedly. Being able to come out of the 5 ghost forest alive was something he could brag about for a lifetime. There aren't many people who come out of the 5 ghost forest alive? Suzimo asked. Thank you for saving our lives, Senior. The old man first expressed his gratitude. Then he hurriedly replied. Very few. As far as I know, apart from the eternal saint of the Ghost Moon ancient sect, almost no one can come out alive. Perhaps there are cultivators who can, but those aren't people we can have contact with. Since it's so dangerous, why would you enter the 5 ghost forest? Suzimo asked again. A flash of embarrassment crossed the old man's face. He then explained, we were being pursued earlier, and my strength wasn't enough. At that time, either we'd be killed by them, or we could only hide in the 5 ghost forest where those people didn't dare chase us. Hearing these words, Suzimo looked at Luo Mingyue in the carriage. It seemed her origins weren't simple either. Otherwise, why would she encounter assassination? As if knowing Suzimo's meaning, the old man hurriedly explained, Lady Mingyue is the orphan of our Luo clan's patriarch. Previously, she lived outside with her mother. Now that her mother has passed away, she wants to return to the Luo clan. I imagine many people don't want her to return. Actually, whether it was being pursued by people earlier or being pursued by a fierce one in the 5 ghost forest, all this made the old man realize something. Someone who could hire a fierce one was probably not an ordinary person within the Luo clan either. They held a high position. He dared not speculate. He only followed the family patriarch's order to safely escort Luo Mingyue home. Oh! Suzimo waved his hand. He was too lazy to bother with these matters. Does Senior want to go to Mortal City? The old man asked. He pointed to the city ahead. Explaining further, he spoke. Within the Luo clan's territory, there are 36 cities in total. However, the most prosperous is still Mortal City. It's also the main city and headquarters of our Luo clan. Let's go take a look. Suzimo thought about it. Currently, he really had nowhere else to go. By the way, you mentioned the Edge of Heaven is in the Jade Maiden Palace. Where is the Jade Maiden Palace? Hearing Suzimo's question, the old man fell silent for a moment, because he wasn't familiar with the Jade Maiden Palace. Moreover, the 3 sects, 1 gate, and 1 palace were all very mysterious. Apart from hearing about them from others, he basically had no contact with them. On the contrary, it was Luo Mingyue in the carriage. She had always wanted to join the Jade Maiden Palace and knew much more about this matter. So she said, the Jade Maiden Palace doesn't have a particularly detailed location. They're established among the celestial palaces in the sky. It's an independently floating island. To enter the Jade Maiden Palace, there's only one method, that is to be admitted into the Jade Maiden Palace. But the Jade Maiden Palace only recruits female disciples. From this perspective, Suzimo had no chance. But Su Zimo wasn't anxious. Instead, he smiled. In worldly affairs, there has never been anything absolute. If young master is willing, you may come to our mortal city to rest and recuperate, Luo Mingyue replied. As far as I know, the Jade Maiden Palace and other powers will soon begin their new recruitment conference. Our mortal city has the honor of being one of the stops. Then let's go take a look. Su Zimo thought about it and finally nodded. Because they had left the Five Ghost Forest, they could now travel through the air. The horse pulling the carriage was a spirit horse. Earlier in the Five Ghost Forest, it had been suppressed by the ghost mist. Now, without the ghost mist, the spirit horse neighed and actually rose into the air, pulling the carriage toward Mortal City. Everyone traveled through the air for about 13 days. The Luo clan's territory was indeed vast. Finally, at dawn on the 14th day, they arrived before Mortal City. Finally back. The old man looked at the majestic and magnificent city with emotion. He was just grateful that Su Zimo had been with them on this journey. Otherwise, even with 10 lives, they couldn't possibly have made it back alive. Senior, for escorting us all this way, we have no way to repay you. Please come to our Luo clan and let me fulfill my duties as a host. The old man turned around and said solemnly to Su Zimo, I'm too lazy to get involved in your Luo clan's affairs. Su Zimo directly refused. I'll just find an inn in the city and wait for the recruitment conference of the Five Great Powers. With Luo Mingyue returning home this time, the entire Luo clan was probably full of hidden currents. Although Su Zimo wasn't afraid, he wasn't someone else's hired muscle either. These past days he had escorted the two, and they had led the way and told him much news about the great beyond. Calculating it this way, they were even. Being refused by Su Zimo, the old man's expression was somewhat awkward, but he could only nod. This old one is the Grand Elder of the Luo clan and still has some authority. If Senior has any requests, feel free to find me. Su Zimo nodded slightly. He paid no more attention to the two and directly walked into Mortal City. It was currently dawn, with the morning sun just breaking. The city that had been sealed all night had just now opened its gates. Watching Su Zimo's departing back, the old man let out a deep sigh. Grand Elder, has young master left? Luo Mingyue poked her head out from the carriage and asked. He's gone. The old man nodded helplessly. Young master and us are ultimately not traveling the same path, Luo Mingyue said with some disappointment. I know, but I still had some selfish intentions. The old man replied. When you first go to the Luo clan, you'll have no foundation after all. Even with the family patriarch protecting you, I'm afraid you'll have difficulty moving forward. The power dynamics in the Luo clan are too complex, and the struggle for power has reached an extreme degree. If Senior could come to our Luo clan, with him protecting you, at least you'd have some say. What a pity. Such a pity. Grand Elder, please don't speak of this anymore. Luo Mingyue replied with a determined expression. Senior saved our lives. We should be bowing down with gratitude. How can we use Senior to intimidate others? You girl, you're just too stubborn. The old man shook his head. But I conduct myself uprightly and honestly, Luo Mingyue said. This return to the Luo clan is only to fulfill Mother's wish. When the recruitment conference of the Five Great Powers begins, I'll find a way to join the Jade Maiden Palace. I have no interest whatsoever in the Luo clan's wealth and power. What if you can't enter the Jade Maiden Palace? The old man asked in return. When the Five Great Powers recruit disciples, the entire Great Beyond is shaken. At that time, geniuses will emerge in droves, countless cultivators. Who dares guarantee they'll definitely be selected? Then I'll return to my old residence and live peacefully until death, Luo Mingyue replied firmly. All right, let's return to the residence first. The old man waved his hand. Once they went to the Luo clan, the family patriarch would naturally make arrangements. Oh, this mortal city was very large. As the Luo clan's headquarters and the premier city among 36 cities, Mortal City's vastness was unimaginable. Mortal City was divided into East and West cities. The East City was where the city's native residents lived. The West City gathered people from all 36 cities, with countless people coming and going from north and south, forming a massive trading market. In West City, there was nothing you couldn't buy. Su Zimo first came to East City and found an inn. Since it was just dawn, the inn's attendant also looked like he hadn't fully woken up, appearing rather listless. Seeing Su Zimo enter, he forced himself to be alert and came forward to greet him. "Guest, are you here to eat or stay?" "Staying." Su Zimo waved his hand and found a seat by the window. "Bring up all the house specialties." "Right away." The attendant hurriedly went down to prepare. Meanwhile, Su Zimo began contemplating his next actions. First, he definitely had to find a way into the Jade Maiden Palace. They didn't recruit men. But what about a stunningly brilliant genius? There were always things in the world that could make people break precedent. In other words, the worst outcome would be to capture someone from the Jade Maiden Palace and have them take him in. However, currently, it wasn't certain whether the Edge of Heaven was where the Desolate Tree was located. But as one of the 5 great powers, a master of the great beyond, the Jade Maiden Palace should have heard of the Desolate Tree, right? Currently, he could only take it one step at a time. Su Zimo wasn't anxious. He had recently been comprehending his second form. After 9 Hells Desolation, Su Zimo had realized that creating godly techniques was a viable path. Godly techniques he created himself were most suited to him. As for the second form, Su Zimo had some ideas. He would call it Slay Myriad Immortals. Some destroy the 9 Hells, some slay 10,000 immortals. I am the chess player and all living beings are chess pieces. Oh! After eating, Su Zimo returned to the inn. However, his comprehension of the second divine technique hadn't lasted long before Su Zimo was awakened by a commotion. With a boom sound, the door to his room was kicked open. A group of people wearing martial uniforms barged in. "You've committed a crime. Come with us," one of them said. This person had a broad back and sturdy build, with very strong presence around him. His strength should be around the God Meridian level. However, Su Zimo could sense that this group was just the vanguard. In the shadows, several Grand Emperor's presences fell upon him, as if investigating something. "Somewhat interesting," he chuckled lightly. He wasn't angry either, because when they barged in, they were already destined to be dead men. "Who are you?" Su Zimo asked. "Luo clan guards," the leading man said proudly. Although they were guards, the Luo clan was the ruler here. Their status was naturally different. Normally, no matter who it was, they had to give these guards some face. "What do you want with me?" Su Zimo asked again. "You know in your heart. Once we reach the Luo clan, there will naturally be a conclusion," the guard said indifferently. "Then let's go take a look." Su Zimo stood up. He was somewhat interested now. He didn't provoke others, yet someone wanted to seek death. He didn't mind sending certain people on their way. This guard seemed somewhat surprised by Su Zimo's composure. Watching as Su Zimo walked out, they also hurriedly surrounded him and followed out. Someone led the way in front, and a mighty procession headed toward the Luo clan. Su Zimo didn't resist, so they were happy to have it easy. Walking on the main street, naturally, there was much discussion all around. Oh! At this time, in a wine house beside the street, a group of people wearing scholarly robes sat here. An old man with 4 young disciples looked down from the second-floor window. One of the male disciples said, "The Luo clan hasn't been very peaceful recently. That place is about to open, and it's in their territory. It would be strange if they were calm." A woman beside him laughed. "When do we make our move?" Another man asked indifferently without smiling. "That depends on Master." The previous woman smiled. Several people looked up. The old man sitting by the window hadn't said a word. "Can't see through," the old man said. "What is Master talking about?" Several people were somewhat confused. "My fate-observing technique can't see through him." The old man's gaze fixed on Su Zimo, until Su Zimo's figure disappeared from view. The old man's expression was grave. Now that place was about to open. He was determined to obtain it. But he also didn't want too many unexpected events to occur. And Su Zimo's appearance was an unstable factor. This time when the Saint Palace opens, We of Blade Mountain are determined to obtain it," the old man said solemnly. In his voice was unshakable determination. Several disciples all nodded. After all, one of Blade Mountain's ancestors had once entered the Saint Palace to study and left them some key items. "I hope this storm won't come too violently." Oh! Under the escort of several guards, Su Zimo arrived at the Luo clan. "Now, can you tell me what this is about?" Su Zimo asked. He wasn't flustered at all. Instead, his expression was calm, consistently indifferent. The guard leader said indifferently, "You'll know once we enter the Luo clan council hall." This Luo clan was very large. After all, it was considered a first-rate power in this world, second only to the 5 great powers. The arrangement within was very subtle. Due to the influence of the Edict of Desolation in this world, the Luo clan had actually set up a formation that could isolate the desolation rules. This made the flowers, grass, and trees within dense and flourishing. Blue bricks and green tiles, pavilions and flowing water. When Su Zimo first entered, he almost thought this was a paradise caused by the desolate tree. However, upon careful sensing, he realized it was just a formation. Moreover, this formation consumed a great deal. To maintain such a scene probably required billions of spirit crystals every year. Only a great family like the Luo clan had the ability to bear such costs. Following the white stone path, Su Zimo arrived before an ancient ancestral hall. "Today, in front of all the ancestors of my Luo clan, I will deal with you." Before entering, Su Zimo had already heard a cold voice coming from inside. "Second Master, whether Miss Mingyue is guilty or not is still uncertain. Furthermore, speaking from the worst case, even if she is guilty, it should be the family patriarch who decides her punishment." Someone argued. Su Zimo could tell it was the old man who had driven the carriage earlier. "With the family patriarch absent, I should naturally assume my elder brother's responsibilities." That previous voice snorted coldly. Just at this moment, Su Zimo swaggered in. In an instant, countless gazes fell upon him. Su Zimo looked up, sizing everyone up. This ancestral hall was very large. Seated at the head was a middle-aged man wearing blue robes. He had a beard and looked very imposing. On both sides sat some middle-aged men and women. They all appeared to be direct descendants of the Luo clan. The previous old man stood in front with an ugly expression. As for Luo Mingyue, she was currently sealed and kneeling in the middle of the ancestral hall. "Grand Elder, Second Master, we've brought the person." The guard leader stepped forward and said, "All right, you all go guard the entrance." The middle-aged man at the head, commonly called Second Master Luo Feihe, waved his hand. After the guards left, the atmosphere in the ancestral hall instantly solidified. "Kneel down." Luo Feihe looked at Su Zimo and shouted loudly. That voice was like thunder, as if trying to seize the initiative. "In my opinion, you should be the one to kneel," Su Zimo said with a light smile. His voice was very calm. But beneath that calm voice, there seemed to be an irresistible will. The next moment, without any warning, Luo Feihe's figure knelt on the ground with both knees. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. "Second Master! Boy, what sorcery did you use? How dare you run wild in my Luo clan? Quickly remove the sorcery from Second Master, or we'll make you wish you were dead." Hearing the foolish words from these people around him, Su Zimo shook his head. "Sorcery? To ants like you, I merely speak and the Tao follows. Since that's the case, then all of you shall kneel as well." Su Zimo said indifferently. Bang, bang, bang. As his words fell, all the direct descendants on both sides knelt down, without any resistance, as if their legs were no longer under their own control. "Commander Luo, where the hell are you?" Seeing this scene, someone's face filled with terror as they shouted toward the outside. Commander Luo, guarding outside, the guard leader who had escorted Su Zimo earlier, directly led more than a dozen guards charging in. These guards were all quite capable, all at the Empyrean Meridian realm. Commander Luo was even a God Meridian cultivator. A God Meridian cultivator merely guarding the house. This was enough to imagine the depth of the Luo clan's foundation. "Kneel," Suzimo said indifferently. He paid no attention to anyone and walked directly to the top, swaggering as he sat on the high seat. The only person still standing at the scene was probably just the old man who knew Suzimo's senior. The old man swallowed and greeted. Before Suzimo could speak, those kneeling below had already begun to threaten. They were direct descendants of the Luo clan. Normally, they existed like local princes. They had never suffered such humiliation. Suzimo lifted his eyelids slightly and said indifferently, "I can make you kneel, and I can also make you strip naked and streak through Mortal City. I can also make you involuntarily go to the latrine to eat shit. You can try." With these words, everyone instantly fell silent. Too ruthless. This was simply making a person's life worse than death. If it were like this, it would probably forever be a black mark on oneself, becoming the laughingstock of Mortal City, the shame of the Luo clan. Killing the person and destroying their heart. If it really came to this, it would probably be even worse than death. Who would still have the face to live in this world? After everyone quieted down, Suzimo waved his hand. Luo Mingyue, who had been imprisoned on the ground, finally slowly stood up, her seal removed. "Thank you, young master," Luo Mingyue sighed. "Because of me, this matter has implicated you, young master. Mingyue deserves 10,000 deaths. Tell me, what's this all about?" Suzimo asked. He originally didn't want to get involved. Who knew these people would keep jumping around? If this wasn't asking for it, what was? "Oh," Luo Mingyue began to explain. "As soon as I arrived at this Luo clan, before long, I was arrested by them. They insisted I colluded with outsiders to seize the Luo clan's treasure. They didn't give me any chance to defend myself. Then they went to the inn to find you, young master, wanting to frame you as the mastermind behind me." "That's right," the old man beside her quickly added. "They wanted to execute both Senior and Miss Mingyue together. Strike fast before anyone can react. Because the family patriarch went south to inspect Heavenly King City and hasn't returned yet, they wanted to deal with Miss Mingyue before the family patriarch returns. Senior is truly an innocent victim." "How did they know of my existence?" Suzimo asked. "I'm afraid after we left the Five Ghost Forest, someone was already following us," the old man hurriedly explained. He certainly hadn't revealed Suzimo's whereabouts. Even the ghost god couldn't do anything to Suzimo. Whether the four fierce ones or the ghost sovereigns, one blade slaughtered 10,000 ghosts. How could the old man not know Suzimo's power? "Is this how it happened?" Suzimo looked at those kneeling below and asked. The people below originally wanted to argue, but they opened their mouths, and it seemed like the facts they had no defense. "This is Mortal City. Even if you kill us, you won't have a good end." Someone began to back down, trying to reconcile. "How about we turn swords and daggers into jade and silk? Let this matter end here, what do you say?" "What do you think?" Suzimo smiled faintly. "I've always been very fair. When others want to kill me, I will certainly repay even the smallest grievance." Just at this moment, a scolding voice came from outside. "How long was I away from home? And everything's already in chaos. Patriarch! The patriarch has returned. Where's Mingyue?" Commotion came from outside. Before long, a middle-aged man wearing green robes and emanating the aura of a saint sovereign walked in. This middle-aged man was stern and unsmiling. His gaze was deep, imposing without anger. Like someone who had long held high position, he gave off an especially strong sense of oppression. The middle-aged man walked in, looked at the situation in the ancestral hall, and frowned slightly. Then he looked at Suzimo seated at the head. His pupils suddenly contracted. "Senior has graced our Luo clan with your presence. Our hospitality was lacking. Please forgive us." The middle-aged man bowed to Suzimo. This gesture shocked everyone present. You must know this middle-aged man's identity. He was the patriarch of the Luo clan, Mortal Sovereign. Not only had his own strength reached the Saint Realm, but he also managed things well. In recent years, under his leadership, the Luo clan had been flourishing. Among first-rate powers, they had a vague tendency to rank among the top. Seeing mortal sovereign being so respectful, Luo Feihe, kneeling beside him, hesitantly called out, "Elder brother, shut up, you useless thing." Mortal sovereign snapped. He directly kicked Luo Feihe flying. Luo Feihe's body slammed hard against the ancestral hall wall, and he spat out a large mouthful of fresh blood. "Do you know your crime?" Mortal sovereign scolded. "I know my crime, I know my crime." With that kick from mortal sovereign, Luo Feihe's body could move freely again. He hurriedly crawled and knelt before mortal sovereign. He knew his elder brother was truly angry. Although he was the second master of this Luo clan, in truth, in this Luo clan, he could only show off in front of servants. Before mortal sovereign and some of the residents' ancestors, he had no status whatsoever. He didn't even doubt that no one cared about his life or death. "I'm not asking you to admit guilt to me. Go admit guilt to Senior," mortal sovereign said with disgust. Luo Feihe turned around without any hesitation. He directly crawled toward Su Zimo, wanting to beg forgiveness. "Piss off!" Su Zimo gave a light shout. That voice was like thunder. At this moment, Luo Feihe was like a kite with a broken string, directly blasted away by powerful force. The power of this strike was very strong. This Luo Feihe was thoroughly crippled. Even if he didn't die, he could only spend the rest of his life bedridden. Su Zimo found even this person's pleas for mercy disgusting. "Senior, it's all because I didn't supervise the people in the residence well. If you have blame, I'll bear it all alone." "You're bearing my blame, you can't afford it," Su Zimo said indifferently. "However, you're a smart person, and I like talking with smart people." Hearing Su Zimo's words, mortal sovereign waved his large hand. He directly ordered, "All direct descendants present today who were guilty shall be imprisoned in the blood cavern. They shall not emerge for 100 years. Hearing these words, everyone panicked. As members of the Luo clan, they knew better than anyone what kind of place the blood cavern was. Inside the blood cavern were basically evil heretics and the Luo clan's enemies. Basically, those imprisoned inside had no hope for life. Either they died alone in old age or they killed each other. If they were put into the blood cavern with their delicate bodies, one could imagine the consequences. However, mortal sovereign paid no attention. He watched as the guards dragged these direct descendants out. "Patriarch, we were just accomplices." At this moment, someone suddenly shouted. "It was Madame Kai who ordered us to do this. She didn't want Miss Mingyue to return to the residence." Hearing these words, a flash of light passed through mortal sovereign's eyes. Yet he remained unmoved, until the pleas for mercy from everyone gradually faded into the distance. Only then did mortal sovereign look toward Su Zimo. "Is Senior satisfied?" "I'll stay at your Luo clan for a few days." Su Zimo nodded and said, "Senior may stay as long as you wish. Whatever instructions you have, feel free to say. As it happens, I lack a maid to serve me." Su Zimo looked at Luo Mingyue. "This girl will do just fine." Mortal sovereign dared not refuse or show unwillingness in the slightest. The old man beside led Su Zimo to arrange a resting courtyard, with Luo Mingyue following closely behind. Only mortal sovereign remained. Not until Su Zimo left did he take a deep breath. He slowly closed his eyes. His originally pounding heart gradually calmed. He extended his right hand. In the center of his palm there was actually an eye. The black and white pupils rotated, very eerie. This was his secret that no one knew. The palm eye was from the Saint Palace scripture he cultivated. When this eye was cultivated to major completion, it could even see karmic reincarnation. Although he had currently only achieved minor completion, he could still use this eye to see through many things. However, when he had just looked at Su Zimo, around Su Zimo's body was endless annihilation mist. This was a god of slaughter. Wherever he went, he would bring destruction. Especially the overwhelming near-infinite power within Su Zimo's body. Even if just a tiny bit leaked out, it was enough to make him, a saint sovereign, feel alarmed. So as soon as mortal sovereign arrived, he dealt with everyone, making sure to satisfy Su Zimo. He believed in his palm eye. The warning and trembling of the palm I all told him that the person before him was not someone their Luo clan could provoke. After sending Su Zimo away, Mortal Sovereign also felt somewhat physically and mentally exhausted. Dealing with so many useless direct descendants, how could he be happy? He slowly sat down in a chair nearby. Just at this moment, the sound of gentle footsteps rang out. Mortal Sovereign slowly raised his head. A woman wearing a cyan long dress slowly walked over. This woman appeared to be in her 30s, but was very well maintained. Her skin was fair and white, without a trace of wrinkles. Moreover, she seemed to have naturally seductive features. Between every frown and smile, people's hearts found it difficult to remain calm. The long dress on her body added several degrees of dignity to her, making people want to conquer her. Even in the depths of Mortal Sovereign's eyes, desire was stirred, but he still forcefully suppressed it. This woman walked before Mortal Sovereign, her delicate jade hands placed at his temples, gently massaging them. "Master, you should rest." Mortal Sovereign looked up, silent for a moment. Finally, he still opened his mouth and asked, "Mingyue's matter? Was it arranged by you?" "I don't know." The woman shook her head. She was Madame Kai, Mortal Sovereign's wife. Also one of the people he was most cautious of. This Madame Kai's background was very significant, with great connections to the Jade Maiden Palace. So Mortal Sovereign also showed some courtesy. If she said she didn't know, then she didn't know. Mortal Sovereign asked no further. This was the tacit understanding between the two. Even if it really was done by the other party, Mortal Sovereign wouldn't pursue it. Because her background was very significant. Back then, when he married her, wasn't it also for utilitarian reasons? That girl Mingyue has had a hard life. She wandered outside since childhood, living a difficult life with her mother. What does that have to do with me? Madame Kai directly interrupted Mortal Sovereign's words, saying impatiently. Mortal Sovereign fell silent for a moment. Finally, he still said, "She's now that person's maid. Don't provoke her. Otherwise, even I can't protect you." Hearing this, Madame Kai snorted coldly. She said indifferently, "No rush. In a few days when the 5 great powers arrive, my elder sister should be among them. I don't believe he dares act the same way toward the 5 great powers." Mortal Sovereign shook his head slightly. He felt even more tired. Standing up, he paid no more attention to Madame Kai and left directly. There were already many matters recently. Not just at home, but outside, a storm was brewing. Oh! The small courtyard the Luo clan arranged for Su Zimo was very elegant and quiet. Although the location was somewhat remote, no one disturbed it and normally no one passed by. The old man had only made this arrangement after consulting with Su Zimo. "Senior, please don't be angry," the old man said tentatively. "It's just that some people in the Luo clan are blind." "I'm not taking it out on the Luo clan," Su Zimo said indifferently. After the old man finished arranging things for Su Zimo, he left. In the entire courtyard, only Su Zimo and Luo Mingyue remained. Su Zimo sat in the pavilion of the courtyard. Luo Mingyue was brewing tea on the side. He began to contemplate. He didn't blame the Luo clan, not because he was merciful, nor because he feared the Luo clan, but because the Luo clan had utilitarian value. Coming to the great beyond, Su Zimo had no foundation whatsoever. He needed some people to gather information for him. The Luo clan's strength was fairly good. According to the power distribution of the great beyond, the 5 great powers dominated the great beyond and should have infinite Dao cultivators among them. As for first-rate powers like the Luo clan that followed closely behind, their strongest should all be Saint Sovereigns. This way, the Luo clan was relatively easy to control. "Young master, the tea is ready?" Luo Mingyue carefully brought a cup of tea and handed it to Su Zimo. Su Zimo gathered his thoughts. He asked, "What was your mother's wish?" "Mother left something in the Luo clan and asked me to retrieve it." Luo Mingyue hesitated for a moment but ultimately said, "But as for what exactly it is, I don't know either. Because before I could retrieve it, I was arrested. Go retrieve it now. Just say I sent you." Su Zimo waved his hand. Watching Luo Mingyue leave, Su Zimo also had nothing else to do and began comprehending the second form. Since he had the train of thought, comprehending it would naturally be twice as effective with half the effort. Especially since this slay myriad immortals could make use of the changes in the God world to comprehend. Oh! Speaking of the God world, Su Zimo hadn't entered it in a long time. This world had been self-propagating, and Su Zimo hadn't rashly disturbed it. This time, after Su Zimo entered, he also learned about the situation. Because he was about to step into the infinite Tao realm, the natives of the God world could cultivate to increasingly higher realms. Among them, the strongest had actually reached Grand Emperor and was about to break through to Saint Sovereign. These were all the first batch of cultivators in the God world. Also the first batch of humans he created. Now they had begun self-propagating, spreading throughout the entire God world. As for his several infernal archons, because of the heavenly Tao of the God world directly giving them insights, the infernal archon's strength progressed very quickly. Sevenface and Red Blade Bull Demon had already entered the infinite Tao realm, their power increasing even faster than Su Zimo's. Celestial Devourer had also reached Saint Sovereign's peak. Only Paimon's cultivation was rather special. He was the first infernal archon to follow Su Zimo. Originally, his cultivation was also the highest. Yet until now, he still hadn't broken through to infinite Tao. As for the specific reason, Su Zimo had basically understood. It was because the Tao fruit Paimon was condensing was especially unique. He had originally cultivated the Tao of despair. If he condensed a Tao fruit, it would naturally be the despair Tao fruit. But Paimon had also comprehended a new Tao during this time, the Tao of death. He wanted to fuse despair and death together, condensing them into a new Tao. Then condense the Tao fruit. Because it was Tao fusion, his speed was naturally much slower. Of course, if he succeeded, his rule power would be much stronger than others. Moreover, the current God world had no secrets to speak of. Previously, Chaos had led the beast race and established the myriad beast realm in the God world. He called himself the myriad beast ancestor. Originally, because of the myriad beast realm's existence, the beast race's status in the God world had gradually surpassed the human race. Unfortunately, human wisdom ultimately surpassed demon beasts. After the first batch of humans grew up, they established the human heavenly court on Primeval Mountain, the highest mountain peak in the God world standing in opposition to the myriad beast realm. In recent years, these two powers had won and lost against each other. Although there were no major wars, friction was constant. Su Zimo met with Chaos. The current Chaos had thick saintly aura on his body. He had already transcended his bloodline, his power formidable. "Master," Chaos said respectfully. Actually, from long ago, because of Chaos's strength issues, Su Zimo rarely needed it anymore. "How is the myriad beast realm I entrusted to you?" Su Zimo asked. "The human race is developing too quickly," Chaos said with a bitter smile. "Right now my strength can temporarily suppress the human race. But when those few from the human race become saints, I'm afraid things will become stretched thin." "What, you want me to help you?" Su Zimo asked. "I wouldn't dare." Chaos hurriedly shook his head. "On the primordial heartlands, back then your beast race was slaughtered by Grand Emperor Jinwu and Sky Shroud War God. Now in this God world, I gave you such a good starting position, yet you still cannot revitalize the beasts." Su Zimo shook his head. "The beast race's decline is as it should be. It's my insufficient capability." Chaos's heart trembled as he hurriedly said, "Forget it. This world ultimately has its own laws of development." Su Zimo said, "As long as there are no aberrations in the God world's development, I won't interfere. Chaos, I've treated you with utmost benevolence and righteousness." Su Zimo's words were very clear. What were aberrations? To the 9 heavens, Su Zimo was an aberration. Or rather, all heavenslayers were aberrations. Because they wanted to transcend this world, be immortal and indestructible, not enter reincarnation. And to Su Zimo, those who transcend in the God world were aberrations. Although he wanted to defy the heavens of the 9 heavens, he wouldn't allow others to defy the heavens of the God world. Matters of this world were always cyclical. Those who defy heaven will also be defied by others. So Su Zimo had a sense of crisis in his heart. Right now, people in the God world were still breaking through to the Saint Sovereign realm and wouldn't defy heaven. But one day, if they reached the peak of cultivation after reaching the other shore, what then? Wouldn't they all want to defy heaven? So Su Zimo urgently wanted to become stronger himself. Strong enough to deal with any enemy. Whether defeating the heavenly Tao of the 9 heavens, or stabilizing the natives of the God world. Overall, there was quite a feeling of internal troubles and external threats. Chaos dared not interject. He only said, "Master's gifts have been more than enough. For this beast race I've also done my best. What it ultimately becomes will have its own destiny. It's best that you can see it clearly," Su Zimo said. "I've cultivated you enough. You're currently only at the Saint Sovereign realm. Haven't even reached the peak. It's this beast race that has held you back." So-called cultivation cannot escape the word struggle. After chatting briefly with Chaos, he asked, "Is Paimon still in seclusion?" Before Lord Paimon entered seclusion this time, he said he absolutely wouldn't emerge until reaching Tao Fruit. Chaos nodded. "I also feel Lord Paimon is close. His Tao Fruit is not far off." As several people were chatting, suddenly, the earth began to shake. A surge of demonic mist shot up into the sky, directly shattering the firmament. "Quick! Activate the Heaven Shroud formation," Chaos shouted. "This might." Su Zimo looked toward the source of the demonic mist. "Speak of the devil and he appears. Paimon is about to break through." Paimon's breakthrough was both within Su Zimo's expectations and outside them. He just hadn't expected such coincidental timing. When that demonic mist shot into the sky, countless immortal mist around the myriad beast realm began to gather. If one looked from a distance, they would discover this immortal mist condensing into a giant spherical cover. And this cover sealed off the entire void around the myriad beast realm. This ensured that the commotion from Paimon's breakthrough wouldn't affect the outside world. Now, with the human race becoming increasingly stronger, if Paimon's existence were discovered, it would probably do more harm than good. Su Zimo looked around. That demonic mist first shot up into the sky. Then 2 more streams intertwined together, accompanying the towering demonic mist as they soared upward. These 2 energy streams represented despair and death respectively. These were the 2 edicts Paimon had comprehended. At this moment, neutralized by the demonic mist, these 2 powers were actually fusing in a special way. Behind Paimon, a massive demon head slowly stood up. This was Paimon's Tao Fruit. Tao Fruit was formless, you could condense it into any shape. And at this moment, Paimon's Tao Fruit was just like this demon head. "He succeeded," someone said in surprise. This condensed demon head grew stronger and stronger in momentum, with faint signs of awakening. Heaven-reaching demonic mist rolled forth, even threatening to break through this isolating barrier. "A very powerful Tao Fruit," Su Zimo observed for a while and finally said, "This Tao Fruit was indeed strong enough. Could perfectly fuse death and despair together." Moreover, Paimon's advancement was different from Su Zimo's. Su Zimo could only be considered half-step infinite Tao. He had condensed a Tao Fruit but didn't have a primordial spirit and couldn't use edict power. But Paimon was different. He had accumulated deeply before releasing. Actually, he had long been a Saint Sovereign. From Tao Fruit, all he lacked was fusing the edicts. So after Paimon condensed his Tao Fruit, he directly entered the primordial spirit stage. There was no such thing as half-step infinite Tao for him. The heaven-reaching demonic mist dyed even the firmament black. At this moment, the originally dark void became even more gloomy. This was heavenly tribulation. Any Tao Fruit cultivator wanting to step into it must undergo heavenly tribulation. When Su Zimo stepped in that day, he would likewise encounter heavenly tribulation. However, at this moment in this God world, Su Zimo was the absolute master. He looked at the heavenly tribulation. That thunder was deep purple entwined with pitch black. This was no ordinary thunder, but true world-destroying God thunder. Weaker Infinite Tao cultivators might die directly under this thunder. For Infinite Tao cultivators, this was a tribulation. Of course, if you were willing to submit to heaven and earth and condense a heavenly Tao fruit, not only would you not need to endure heavenly tribulation, you could even use the power of heaven and earth. Su Zimo's gaze looked toward the firmament. He stood with hands behind his back, his eyes pitch black, saying indifferently, "Heavenly tribulation, get lost." At that moment, the firmament seemed to receive some decree. The divine thunder that was supposed to destroy the world hesitated to descend. Finally, as the thunder grew weaker and weaker, it completely dissipated. And with a heaven-shaking explosion, Paimon had already risen into the air, walking out from his place of seclusion. He wore black robes. His black hair moved without wind. In his eyes, endless demonic mist continuously gushed forth. His face was gaunt, carrying an evil aura. "I greet Master." Paimon descended and bowed to Su Zimo. "You've finally stepped into this realm." Su Zimo smiled. Paimon also smiled. "I was anxious in my heart too. Master grows ever stronger. If I didn't step in, I'd probably be completely useless. How could I speak of following Master and revitalizing our ancient demon race? All right, I came here for another matter." Su Zimo waved his hand. "You just emerged from seclusion. You should comprehend your power and familiarize yourself well with your own situation." Paimon nodded slightly. Only then did Su Zimo turn his head to look at Chaos. He said, "I remember you just mentioned that the humans of this god world established a heavenly court?" "That's right." Chaos hurriedly nodded. "Take me to see it. I want to find some inspiration," Su Zimo said. He had recently been comprehending the second form, slay myriad immortals. Unlike Nine Hells Desolation, the Nine Hells of this god world was created by his own hands. So comprehending the first form was extremely easy. But the heavenly court, he hadn't seen it. When Su Zimo tried to comprehend it, he always felt something was missing. Now hearing about this god world's heavenly court, Su Zimo naturally wanted to go see it. Perhaps he could gain some inspiration. Chaos hurriedly nodded. "Oh." After bidding farewell to everyone, Chaos and Su Zimo rose into the air toward Primeval Mountain. This Primeval Mountain was the highest mountain peak within the god world. At first, the human race's heavenly court was established on a floating island. Unfortunately, that island's position was unstable and moreover, it couldn't withstand great battles. Finally, the human race decided to place the heavenly court on Primeval Mountain. This Primeval Mountain was no simple matter. Rising from the ground to reach heaven, holding the moon in its grasp. When Su Zimo arrived, this world's first peak had forests glowing, clouds and mist swirling, covered in verdant green. Since ancient times this mountain first receives the sun. The peaks generate clouds even without rain. This mountain was indeed high. Its summit stood in the firmament, as if bordering with the sky itself. Of course, though this was an illusion, it was still majestic and imposing. The two rose through the air all the way up. A full dozen minutes later, they arrived not far from the summit. White clouds and mist swirled around the summit, making it impossible for ordinary people to see inside. "It's a formation," Chaos said. "No problem." In Su Zimo's eyes, the infinite samsara demon eye flashed briefly. That cloud mist was instantly devoured by the power of samsara. Only then could Su Zimo see the scene inside clearly. The summit of this primeval mountain was no simple matter. It was already the first mountain peak of the god world. And now, with the establishment of the human race's heavenly court, many powerful existences had moved some famous mountains and islands here, floating and fixed at the summit. At the entrance to the heavenly court, there were first jade-white steps extending all the way down to the mountainside. Legend had it that to enter the heavenly court, one must walk step by step from the mountain's foot to its summit. On the white jade steps, clouds and mist swirled, with mountain ranges surrounding them. The heavenly court's south pacifying gate was majestic and imposing. 100,000-meter-tall gateway was supported like two dragon pillars, with a dragon and phoenix statue on each side. Patterns were carved upon them, Looking through the south pacifying gate, the scene inside was even more like a celestial realm. It must be said, the human race certainly knew how to enjoy themselves. Towers and palaces of various shapes, but all magnificent, stood against the mountains. These palaces were hidden in celestial mist. 10,000 rays of golden light rolled with crimson aura. 1,000 wisps of auspicious mist spewed purple mist. Even between the palaces, the small paths underfoot were paved with white spirit stone, covered with ice bird feathers. Occasionally at stone bridges they were emerald green and brightly shining, who knows what special materials they were. A heaven-reaching river spanned the entire heavenly court, even extending to the base of Primeval Mountain and disappearing into the god world. In this river, the water seemed to be condensed spirit energy. Each drop weighed 1,000 tons. The fish within seemed to be dragon carp, carrying low dragon roars as they surged through the water. Sun Palace, Moon Palace, Human Emperor Hall, Patriarch Tower. Buildings rose from the ground one after another. Within this heavenly court, soldiers wearing golden armor patrolled from time to time. They were mighty and imposing, their momentum like a rainbow. When they walked, they carried the clang-clang sound of armor colliding. "Master," Chaos said from the side, "this is the heavenly court. Inside are some things even I can't see clearly. Compared to your beast race, the human race is indeed much more regal," Su Zimo joked. The beast race's myriad beast realm looked like scattered sand. How could it compare to the prestige of the human race? After all, humans were creatures that placed great importance on ceremony. "Help me protect the Dharma," Su Zimo said. He sat cross-legged. The infinite samsara demon eye gazed at the heavenly court, almost taking in the entire place. In this state, he could see those assembled immortals. Perhaps those people weren't really immortals at all, merely calling themselves immortals. But Su Zimo was only seeking inspiration. He didn't need true immortals. For slay myriad immortals, he thought of the realm of assembled immortals, immortals descending upon the 9 provinces, the vastness and majesty of the human race's heavenly court. Everything began to evolve in his mind. Yet at a certain moment, a blade spanned the void. The blade was billions of miles long, descending from heaven, slaughtering immortals and killing gods. Even true immortals, powerful divine beings, would lose their heads under this blade. Immortals shocked, gods terrified. This was an absolute killing blade. He saw the heavenly court collapse, order in chaos. He saw the assembled immortals executed. Su Zimo thus evolved and comprehended on his own. Time passed bit by bit. 1 month later. On this day, the Heavenly Emperor was hosting several immortals at the Enlightenment Tea Garden. Among them were true immortal Baoqing, Violet Emperor, and Sunlight Bodhisattva. Buddhism in this world wasn't as powerful as imagined. Whether Taoist or Buddhist cultivators, all had to submit to the Heavenly Court's jurisdiction. The Heavenly Court was the absolute ruler and master of the human race. The Heavenly Emperor smiled faintly. "You all should have sensed the opportunity to become saints, right?" Violet Emperor nodded slightly. He gazed at the firmament, where the cloudless sky seemed to flash with stars and constellations in his eyes. He said indifferently, 7 days hence, when the 7 stars align, will be when I become a saint. Once I enlighten 30,000 more people, I can become a saint," Sunlight Bodhisattva replied calmly. He showed neither joy nor sorrow. And true immortal Baoqing also smiled faintly. "I can become a saint at any time." Hearing the three's answers, the Heavenly Emperor was quite satisfied. Around him, a faint saintly aura permeated out. The 3 immediately showed surprise on their faces. They hadn't expected that the Heavenly Emperor had unknowingly already become a saint. "Only upon entering the saint's sovereign realm did I feel the grandeur of heaven and earth," the Heavenly Emperor said with emotion. "The Heavenly Emperor gathering us here surely isn't just to ask about this matter, right?" Sunlight Bodhisattva asked. "What do you all think of the beasts?" the Heavenly Emperor asked directly. "Our great adversary," Violet Emperor snorted coldly. "The only place in this god world that can contend with our heavenly court. But just wait. One day, Even the beast race will submit to me. After Violet Emperor enters the Saint Realm, your celestial dipper scripture should advance further, right? The Heavenly Emperor asked with hidden meaning. It has advanced further, but I still can't find the location of the myriad beast realm. Violet Emperor shook his head. In fact, they had been searching for the beast race's lair all these years. After all, their heavenly court was established on Primeval Mountain. This was known to all. But the beast race remained extremely mysterious. This situation of one being open and one hidden greatly displeased the heavenly court. Moreover, without finding the beast race, they could never uproot them completely. Unfortunately, the heavenly court had searched for countless years yet still had no clues. This is interesting, the heavenly emperor said. Having entered Saint's sovereign realm, I'm afraid there aren't many things in heaven and earth that can hide under your celestial dipper technique. The beast race does have some skill, but I have other methods to find them, Violet Emperor said. Seeing the curious gazes of several people, Violet Emperor formed a seal with one hand. In an instant, a star rune appeared in his hand. This star was magnificent and beautiful, with what seemed like a galaxy flowing quietly within. This is the beast star, I comprehended. As long as there are beast race existences within a certain range, my beast star will have awareness. Violet Emperor explained. And the stronger the beast race, the more intense this beast star's reaction will be. When the time comes, we'll have everyone in the heavenly court take a beast star and spread throughout the entire god world. Though this method is clumsy, it's also effective. Just as Violet Emperor's words fell, the beast star in his hand suddenly flashed. The star power warned. With a boom, the powerful star power rioted and actually exploded directly. The heavenly emperor and the others looked at each other. But Violet Emperor's eyes narrowed. There are beast race people around the heavenly court. Violet Emperor, you're not joking, right? True Immortal Baoqing laughed. The beast race dares come to our heavenly court? Isn't that seeking death? Not ordinary beast race. My beast star directly exploded because it couldn't withstand its beastly power. Violet Emperor turned his head, suddenly looking in a certain direction. He called out, "Right there." Seeing this scene, the others knew Violet Emperor wasn't joking. The four exchanged glances, their tacit understanding unspoken. They directly tore through the void before them and stepped inside. Oh! Beside Primeval Mountain, Su Zimo sat cross-legged. He slowly opened his eyes and smiled. A few interesting juniors have arrived. Master need not worry. I alone am sufficient to stop them, Chaos said. I'm quite interested to see what kind of style this god world's human race has, Su Zimo said with great interest. As they were speaking, the void nearby began to fluctuate, as if about to be torn apart. They're here. Chaos narrowed his eyes slightly. He knew the opponents should be the strongest existences in the heavenly court. Because of his presence, they had sensed the demonic mist. Space was torn apart, and four figures with profound auras walked out one after another. Surging saintly aura shot up into the sky. The heavenly emperor stood in the firmament. His gaze fell upon Chaos. The beast race actually dares appear in my heavenly court's territory. Beside him, True Immortal Baoqing also snorted coldly. When heaven's path is open, you don't walk it. Hell's gate has no door, yet you barge in yourself. Be careful. It is very powerful, Violet Emperor reminded. It's probably the strongest among the beast race we've ever encountered. He was skilled in divination techniques, so his premonitions were especially accurate. Capture it first, then slowly interrogate it, the heavenly emperor ordered. I have a premonition that if we capture this demon, it definitely knows the location of the myriad beast realm. The four rose into the air. Their gazes and attention were all on Chaos, so no one paid attention to Su Zimo. The four surrounded Chaos from four different directions. The heavenly emperor waved his large hand. The saintly aura around him erupted violently. What he cultivated was the heavenly emperor formula, a cultivation path he created himself. This path had no special features. Only one word: domineering. Absolutely domineering. He struck down with one fist, the Heavenly Emperor's fist. Heaven collapsed and earth split. Sun and moon lost their color. Chaos snorted coldly. At this moment, it had already transformed into human form. Also, with one fist, it collided with the Heavenly Emperor's. As a member of the beast race, in defense and offense, it was an absolute king. Before their fists even collided, the hurricanes stirred up between their fists had already torn through the void, violently crashing together. In heaven and earth, thunder exploded. Between the two, a bottomless chasm appeared, forcibly separating the two. The Heavenly Emperor was knocked back several dozen meters, but Chaos's figure merely wavered for a moment. In an instant, superiority was determined. Although both were Saint Sovereigns, the Heavenly Emperor had just stepped in, while Chaos's cultivation was already deep. Not far from the peak either. To think the beast race has such a strong cultivator. The Heavenly Emperor was greatly shocked. You must know, over these years, wars between the human race and beast race had been constant. Initially, the beast race held the upper hand. But in recent years, the human race had gradually reversed the situation. Whether low-end combat power or high-end combat power, they believed the human race was not inferior to the beast race. But seeing Chaos, they realized there were great demons in the beast race who had long advanced to Saint Sovereign. Today we must keep it here, or there will be endless trouble. The Heavenly Emperor instantly made this judgment. The beast race's sacred ground, the myriad beast realm, was just too mysterious. He felt it was like a thorn, constantly making the Heavenly Emperor uncomfortable. Oh, form of all beings. Sunlight Bodhisattva put palms together. Expression solemn. At this moment, if you looked at Sunlight Bodhisattva's face, you'd discover this face transforming through myriad changes, indistinguishable between male and female, old and young, as if transformed into all living beings of the world. Demons are also beings, they should also be enlightened. Sunlight Bodhisattva's words fell again. With a point of the large hand, that index finger was originally no different from a normal person's, but in the blink of an eye, it became a heaven-supporting pillar, directly crushing down toward Chaos. Chaos snorted coldly, raising both hands upward, forcibly bearing the heaven-supporting pillar. When heaven and earth first opened, two paths of turbid and clear. I am the clear path. Treasure mist leisurely follows my heart. True immortal Baoqing beside them. At this moment his figure became blurred and ethereal. Around him a special Tao surged forth. As the God world grew stronger with Su Zimo and became more vast, true immortal Baoqing was fortunate enough to have witnessed some fragments of the world's opening. In this opening of heaven and earth, he comprehended the Tao of clarity. Clear and turbid were originally part of heaven and earth. True immortal Baoqing put palms together. Without forming seals, countless seal marks rose to the sky, transforming into vast seas of clarity. The sea's vastness, boundless and endless. The sea's depth, wanting to compete with heaven itself. The sea of clarity surged forth magnificently, in an almost invincible posture, submerging all around Chaos. Meanwhile, the Heavenly Emperor snorted coldly, with a casual wave, as if he had already comprehended the mysteries of heaven and earth. Countless profound mysteries of heaven and earth were drawn down. Thunder lies dormant. I master heaven and earth. Heavenly thunder rolled, annihilating everything, directly attacking with devastating force. With a boom, when all the thunder fell upon Chaos, the firmament seemed to be shattered. The four from the heavenly court stared intently at the void where Chaos was. When the void's storm gradually calmed, several people's expressions changed. Originally Chaos was in human form, but now it had completely restored its beast body. Its body was enormous. Even the heavenly court's south pacifying gate was insignificantly small before it. Black and deep red demonic mist swirled around its body. Two pairs of heaven-covering wings flapped, making the void as fragile as tofu. Its four limbs were powerful, not only with astonishing strength but also covered in indestructible barbs. At this moment, with each breath, it was enough to affect the fluctuations of the surrounding void. The human race is still far from sufficient, Chaos snorted coldly. Its large palm fell. The space where the Heavenly Emperor stood directly collapsed and caved in, and the Heavenly Emperor's figure was stomped down, plummeting toward Primeval Mountain. Damn it, this beast is fierce. I'll trap it. Everyone help me slay it. Violet Emperor roared in anger. Around him appeared countless stars. These stars seemed to have some connection with the celestial stars in the mysterious beyond. The stars burst forth with powerful force. Pillars of starlight illuminated the firmament. The stars in the sky seemed to sense something, similarly transmitting star power descending. Celestial star locking formation, Violet Emperor roared. Those starlight beams descending from heaven, their positions shifting and flashing, directly fell upon Chaos in full. Each beam of starlight was like a chain, locking Chaos's entire body within the formation. Meanwhile, the void beside was torn apart by a large hand. The Heavenly Emperor's figure appeared again. The Heavenly Emperor's expression was grave, holding an imperial decree. He said, "I will activate the primordial rebirth ancient Tao, gathering 10,000 years of my heavenly court's power. Everyone, assist me." As the Heavenly Emperor's words fell, the imperial decree in his hand was directly crushed. This imperial decree was no ordinary thing. It was no exaggeration to say it controlled the entire heavenly court. Around the heavenly court and on Primeval Mountain, there were formations collecting power. This was the heavenly court's trump card. This power had been collected for 10,000 years. To kill Chaos, the Heavenly Emperor was going all out. As the imperial decree shattered, rumble, rumble. Within the heavenly court, countless formations began to operate. An overwhelmingly vast power submerged everything. This power could not be underestimated. It had been accumulated by the heavenly court for 10,000 years. The primordial rebirth ancient Tao was the heavenly court's world-suppressing method. The most powerful divine ability. Only each generation's heavenly emperor had the qualification to cultivate it. The powerful aspect of the primordial rebirth ancient Tao was that as long as there was absolutely powerful force to support it, no matter what the opponent's existence was, it could forcibly shatter their physical body and send their soul to rebirth and reincarnation. This move was most lethal to demon beasts. Because demon beasts' bodies were powerful, this had been so since ancient times. At this moment, as surging spirit energy came like waterfalls, like vast seas, endlessly attacking, the entire firmament was covered within. Before the Heavenly Emperor, that powerful force impacted everything, and a leaf appeared. The rebirth leaf. Legend said it grew on the rebirth tree. This rebirth tree grew in hell, on a ghost tree that had existed for countless years. One rebirth leaf, all beings become hell's guests. As the rebirth leaf was irrigated by countless forces, in the blink of an eye, it grew into a towering tree. This towering tree was the rebirth tree. Of course, it wasn't the true rebirth tree, merely an illusory evolution from the rebirth leaf. But even so, it was already remarkable. The tree seemed to have gained sentience. The branches and leaves above all condensed into vortexes. At a rough glance, on this tree, large and small, there were actually hundreds of vortexes. Enter my rebirth gate. Eternally fall into reincarnation. The Heavenly Emperor roared loudly. Blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Within this blood, 3 drops of golden blood floated out. This was essence blood. Essence blood was everyone's heart's blood, affecting a person's lifespan and cultivation. The Heavenly Emperor was putting everything on the line to obliterate Chaos. The 3 from Violet Emperor beside him, seeing this scene, dared not hesitate. Body transforms into Ziwei, restraining all heavens. Violet Emperor's entire being transformed into 360 stars, directly suspended in the firmament, sealing off all around Chaos. This was to prevent Chaos from escaping. True immortal Baoqing produced a purple gourd from who knows where. Treasure gourd, demon-slaying treasure mist. The gourd was opened. The treasure mist that true immortal Baoqing had nurtured for several thousand years all surged forth, condensing into a demon-slaying flying blade in the void. This flying blade was incomparably sharp. As if nothing couldn't be broken, no demon couldn't be slain. With a boom, the flying blade attacked at light speed with a sonic explosion. As for Sunlight Bodhisattva, it was even more exaggerated. The wish power of all beings empowers my body. Buddha is merciful, ferrying you to rebirth. Sunlight Bodhisattva's body instantly grew several hundred times larger. At this moment, he was no longer a body of flesh and blood, but the form of a bodhisattva, condensed from the wish power of all beings, pushing with a large hand, about to push chaos toward the rebirth tree. If you looked carefully, you'd discover this wasn't just a large hand. It was clearly all beings wanting to push you. The heavenly emperor had gone completely mad. His long hair flew wildly as he stood atop the rebirth tree, making himself the eye of this primordial rebirth ancient Tao formation. After countless vortexes condensed enough spirit energy, they directly transformed into torrents of rebirth. Moreover, hundreds of vortexes meant hundreds of rebirth torrents. These rebirth torrents were like thick threads, intertwining together, attacking toward chaos. Chaos could be said to be besieged on all sides, but it wasn't panicked either. Instead, it said calmly, "If all four of you had broken through to Saint Sovereign, perhaps today you could truly ferry me to rebirth. Unfortunately, 3 Grand Emperors and 1 newly entered Saint Sovereign, how can you do anything to me?" Chaos's massive body began to move. With one movement, heaven and earth darkened. Sun and moon lost their color. The 360 star powers that originally bound it were instantly shattered. Chaos opened its great mouth again, actually directly swallowing the demon-slaying flying blade, completely unharmed. Immediately after, it looked toward that palm of wish power from all beings. Laughing loudly, he spoke, "The God world is not your Buddhism's territory. Your wish power is too weak." The wish power palm pushed forward, but chaos remained unmoved, motionless. If comparing wish power, my beast race has countless members. Why would we fear your Buddhism's forces? Chaos snorted coldly. Only then did it turn its head to look at the rebirth torrents. Toward this attack, it also dared not be negligent. It straightened its body. At its abdomen, a chaos vortex appeared. Deep red and black-purple thunder exploded at the vortex's edge. Within this chaos vortex, heart-shocking power seemed to gather. Chaos was originally a divine beast. This was also its innate divine ability, world-destroying chaos thunder. This thunder was unique to chaos. That violent thunder was in no way inferior to the rebirth torrents. When these two powerful forces collided together, it seemed in this heaven and earth only these two forces remained. All other things paled in comparison. With a boom, the collision of thunder and rebirth destroyed everything before them. However, the imagined heaven-shaking explosion didn't occur. Instead, the two forces were in a deadlock. The heavenly emperor was roaring. His own essence blood continuously burned. Chaos was also howling. All the power in its body gathered here. Watching this scene, everyone was both shocked and frightened. They hadn't expected that even at this degree, they still couldn't do anything to this demon beast. Finally, when the power reached its limit, the deadlocked balance was broken. A mushroom cloud bloomed in the void. That explosion sound was like rolling thunder. One sound after another, stirring up thunder from a clear sky. Oh! Violet Emperor and the others stared intently at the battle's core. The heavenly emperor was quite disheveled, half kneeling on the ground, long hair draped over his head. The rebirth tree had already shattered halfway. On the opposite side, chaos was also not doing well. At its abdomen, a bloody hole had appeared, blood slowly dripping. The aura on its body had also weakened considerably. Chaos had killing intent in its heart. This human race heavenly court's growth speed was too fast, already threatening it. The heavenly emperor likewise condensed killing intent. He called out, "If this were elsewhere, I'd really let you escape. But this is the heavenly court." He looked toward Violet Emperor. Summon for me the 3 sovereigns, 4 Imperials, 7 Buddhas, 8 Immortals. These were all immortal gods with formidable strength in the heavenly court. Now he and Chaos were both wounded. But don't forget, this was the heavenly court, not the myriad beast realm. This was their territory. Chaos snorted coldly. It also wasn't afraid at all. At worst, summoned 10,000 demons to descend. Between the human race and beast race have a true life and death battle. It believed that the current human race hadn't fully grown yet. The beast race definitely had the strength to annihilate them. The only thing Chaos was uncertain about was, as the master of this world, would Su Zimo permit the human race's extinction? All right, let's stop here, Su Zimo said indifferently. With a wave of his hand, Chaos instantly understood. Su Zimo wouldn't permit one race's extinction. Yes, master. Chaos obediently withdrew to the side. Hearing Chaos's words, before Su Zimo could respond, the 4 from the heavenly court were directly dumbfounded. Master! You must know Chaos was a Saint Sovereign level demon beast, yet it would call a human master. This was simply crazy. The heavenly emperor directly opened his heavenly eye. Immortal mist swirled in his pupils. He wanted to see whether Su Zimo was truly human or a demon beast in transformed form. But no matter how he looked, he couldn't see through Su Zimo's origins. Junior, you're still far from it. Su Zimo smiled faintly. Who exactly are you? The heavenly emperor asked in shock. Who am I? Su Zimo fell silent for a moment. He actually really wanted to say, I'm this world's father. He created this world. All these living beings were created by him. Calling him father shouldn't be too much, right? Su Zimo shook his head, looked at Chaos, and said, Let's go. He didn't want to say too much to this world's natives. At least the opponent didn't need to understand this world's truth yet. Moreover, the more he said, the more he'd expose. He didn't want countless years later, a bunch of people clamoring to defy heaven. My fate is mine to control, not heaven's. Seeing Su Zimo about to leave, the heavenly emperor became anxious too. He hurriedly shouted, Answer my question first. Being heavenly emperor for so long has made you quite imposing. Su Zimo smiled faintly. He waved his large hand. Powerful force erupted violently. Between him and the heavenly emperor, a heaven-shocking torrent spanned across. Like dragon roars and phoenix calls, directly piercing through heaven and earth. The entire primeval mountain couldn't help but shake and tremble. In heaven and earth, an eternally indelible chasm appeared. Violet Emperor swallowed hard. Strong, too strong. He even felt that the opponent's casual strike was enough to kill him, scatter his soul. The others were also frightened. The heavenly emperor gazed at the other side of the chasm. Su Zimo and Chaos's figures had already disappeared. Oh, heavenly emperor, are you all right? True immortal Baoqing asked from the side. The heavenly emperor withdrew his gaze, only sighing one sentence. There's always a higher heaven. Originally he thought he had already stood at this world's peak, was among the strongest. He thought he could look down upon this world. Even the beast race, his great concern, as long as given time, he could eventually annihilate them. But the person he saw today, Chaos first gave him a great shock. And that young man he called Master was even more unfathomably deep, making him lack even the courage to fight. At that moment he felt as if he were an ant. That young man looked at him just as he looked at all living beings. Oh, Bodhisattva, what's above Saint Sovereign? The heavenly emperor turned his head and suddenly asked. Sunlight Bodhisattva froze. After contemplating for a moment, finally replied, Buddha says, the Tao has no end, just as Buddha Dharma is boundless. At least we are pioneers. Pioneers? I see someone has walked further than us, the heavenly emperor said. But it doesn't matter. One day I will catch up to everyone. Become the true heavenly emperor of this God world. In his eyes, flames seemed to burn fiercely. Having cultivated to this step, how could he be defeated by a small setback? Oh, You wanted to kill them just now? Su Zimo looked at Chaos and asked. For that instant I did have that thought, Chaos admitted. They're weak now. I have an opportunity to avoid leaving endless future troubles. Why did Master stop me? The God world hasn't taken final form yet and is constantly growing. I don't want too much internal destruction. Su Zimo explained. If one day, I'm saying if, Chaos asked, between the human race and beast race, if one must perish, would Master intervene? No. Su Zimo shook his head. Unless it caused an impact on the entire world's development, he wouldn't interfere. The world had its own development patterns. Or rather, natural selection, survival of the fittest. Races that should perish, it's because this era was no longer suitable for them. Oh? Su Zimo didn't stay long in the God world. After witnessing Paimon step into infinite Tao and comprehending the second form slay myriad immortals at the heavenly court, Su Zimo chatted briefly with everyone and then left. Returning again to the Luo clan, footsteps came from outside. Mortal Sovereign stood outside the courtyard asking, I wonder if Senior has time? I've come to visit Senior. Come in. Su Zimo let out a long breath and said indifferently. Mortal Sovereign was seen carrying a box, slowly walking in. Seeing Su Zimo sitting in the pavilion, he hurriedly came over. Presenting the box forward, he smiled. Senior visiting my residence is my Luo clan's honor. I also fear inadequate hospitality. This box contains some enlightenment tea, obtained through exchange from the Azure Cloud ancient sect. I'm afraid Patriarch Luo doesn't visit the temple without a purpose, Su Zimo asked. I wonder how much Senior knows about the Human Sovereign Palace? Mortal Sovereign smiled. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Asked, Human Sovereign Palace? Senior doesn't know? Mortal Sovereign was also shocked. He had originally thought Su Zimo stayed at the Luo clan for the Human Sovereign Palace. So he simply laid his cards on the table. Who knew Su Zimo didn't know about this matter at all. However, things had come to this point, so Mortal Sovereign continued. The Human Sovereign Palace is an ancient ruin. It's said to have been left by an infinite Tao cultivator from the great beyond. This Human Sovereign Palace contains things that can allow people to break through to infinite Tao. Continue, Su Zimo replied. Breaking through to infinite Tao, he had just reached half-step infinite Tao. If he could advance further, when he went to that core area of the nine heavens, he wouldn't need to fear anyone. It's just that the Human Sovereign disappeared long ago. Along with his inheritance palace, no one knew its whereabouts. Mortal Sovereign said. But recently, within the territory governed by my Luo clan, the Human Sovereign Palace actually appeared. Somewhat interesting. Su Zimo stroked his chin. What's the significance of you telling me? Is Senior interested? Mortal Sovereign asked. Why would you tell me? Want to cooperate with me? Su Zimo asked. Indeed I do. Senior takes the big meat. Just leave some small meat for my Luo clan. You don't want to monopolize it? That requires having the capability. Mortal Sovereign smiled bitterly. Once the Human Sovereign Palace emerged, all 5 great powers descended. Countless others lurk in the shadows, eyeing it covetously. If our Luo clan tried to monopolize it, we'd be seeking our own death. Then why not cooperate with the 5 great powers? Su Zimo asked again. They're too greedy. If cooperating with them, forget about eating small meat, probably not even soup would be left, Mortal Sovereign replied. Although their Luo clan was also a first-rate power, compared to the 5 supreme powers, they were still far behind. The strong remain strong, the weak remain weak. This was the same principle. It seems you're quite confident in me, Su Zimo smiled. The other party wouldn't cooperate with the 5 great powers, but instead chose to cooperate with him, an unknown figure. This proved that Mortal Sovereign believed he could contend with the 5 great powers. The Grand Elder told me that in the 5 Ghost Forest, even the Ghost God couldn't do anything to you, Mortal Sovereign said. So I want to gamble once. You want the Luo clan to have an infinite Tao cultivator, Su Zimo replied. Several ancestors in the residence have already reached Saint Sovereign Peak. Unfortunately, without external help, I'm afraid they have no hope of reaching infinite Tao in this lifetime. Mortal Sovereign said. We cooperate with Senior, but hope the 5 great powers won't know about it. Otherwise, I'm afraid the Luo clan will find it difficult to maintain its position in the future. You've calculated well. Cooperating with me, you're unwilling to bear any risk at all. Su Zimo said, but why should I cooperate with you? My Luo clan has a complete map of the human sovereign palace, Mortal Sovereign said with remarkable insight. To be honest, several years ago, we actually discovered the human sovereign palace's inheritance site. It's just that back then, despite all our efforts to enter, it was futile. I knew the time hadn't come yet. Originally, I thought when the human sovereign palace opened, I'd lead the residence's people inside, who knew that the day the human sovereign palace inheritance opened, a holy light shot into the sky, illuminating the entire firmament. The sovereign's voice resonated above the clouds. This phenomenon alarmed the entire great beyond. Whether the 5 great powers or other cultivators, all placed their attention on this. Mortal Sovereign smiled bitterly. They had prepared for several years, but unfortunately it all came to nothing. He continued, although the human sovereign palace was exposed, we've had some gains these years. One of them is the map of the human sovereign palace. Su Zimo lightly tapped the stone table in the pavilion with his hand. He was contemplating the gains and losses. The human sovereign palace contained things to help people enter infinite Tao. This was what he valued most. Unfortunately, after so many years, even Mortal Sovereign dared not confirm it. Then he thought of the Jade Maiden Palace. What if he obtained the inheritance and used it to enter the Jade Maiden Palace? The more Su Zimo thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. Mainly because, first, among the 5 great powers all had infinite Tao cultivators. Su Zimo didn't want to force his way in. Second, his purpose of finding the desolate tree, he didn't want others to know about it. Thinking this far, Su Zimo replied, all right, I agree. When do we enter the human sovereign palace? Hearing Su Zimo's answer, Mortal Sovereign restrained the smile on his face. He hurriedly said, although the human sovereign palace has already opened, there's corrosive poisonous mist at the entrance. Even saint sovereigns cannot enter. Moreover, 18 demons guard the entrance. Let's wait 3 more days. In 3 days, the 5 great powers should arrive. By then, someone should deal with the poisonous mist and the 18 demons. Bring me that map of the human sovereign palace, Su Zimo said. Speaking of this map, it was also our good fortune. Back then, while inspecting around the human sovereign palace, we looked for other entrances. At the entrance to the human sovereign palace, there are many statues, seemingly all disciples of the human sovereign. Among them was a statue with a lion's head and human body. This map fell from its mouth. Mortal Sovereign explained. After obtaining the map, I made 2 copies. I carry one with me. Mortal Sovereign's right hand grabbed, and the eye in his palm directly opened, reflecting the void beside him. This void was opened, and Mortal Sovereign retrieved a map from within. His palm eye was quite interesting. Not only could it warn and sense others' power, it also came with a space. A space only he could open. By placing things in his palm space, Mortal Sovereign was as safe as could be. Even if killed, others couldn't find it. Forgive me for showing off, Senior. Just some small tricks. Mortal Sovereign smiled. He handed the map to Su Zimo. Senior, this map is the original version. Absolutely authentic. Su Zimo took the map in hand. He could feel it should be some demon beast's hide. After countless years, it remained incorruptible. Opening the map, it was densely packed with crisscrossing paths, like a maze. However, upon closer inspection, Su Zimo discovered the human sovereign palace was divided into 3 major sections, respectively the Hall of Transmission, Saint School, and Discipline Hall. Only after passing through all 3 places could one obtain the saint's inheritance. Do you know what these 3 places test? Su Zimo asked. Probably related to teaching and learning, Mortal Sovereign pondered. When the human sovereign was alive, he taught without discrimination, with students throughout the world. He was the most respected cultivator in the great beyond. Many called him the imperial teacher, because his students many had already become grand emperors. Another portion even entered Saint's sovereign realm, and his 9 most accomplished disciples were all infinite Tao cultivators. Oh, that powerful! Even Su Zimo was somewhat surprised. The disciples he taught were all infinite Tao cultivators, Saint sovereigns and grand emperors. More importantly, he didn't pick his students, he taught without discrimination. Then, looking at it this way, the human sovereign palace's inheritance was definitely related to teaching. After chatting with Su Zimo for a while, mortal sovereign left. Before long, Luo Mingyue also came. She held a box in her hands. Found it? Su Zimo asked. Luo Mingyue nodded. Su Zimo looked at the box, his eyes narrowing. Let me see the box. Luo Mingyue hesitated slightly. Ultimately, she still handed the box to Su Zimo. You haven't opened it? Su Zimo asked. Luo Mingyue shook her head. I can't open this box. Su Zimo looked at the box, pitch black throughout with some patterns on it. At the box's lock was the shape of a writing brush. Su Zimo's hands suddenly pulled upward, but the box remained intact. This hardness exceeded Su Zimo's expectations. Just as Su Zimo wanted to continue destroying the box, a boom, muffled sound suddenly came. Su Zimo felt his consciousness seem struck by something. Immediately after, the world before his eyes changed. The sovereign preserves spirit and seeks arrival, accomplishing the world's great order, achieving the world's great benefit, harmonizing the juncture of heaven and humanity, making it seamless. The saint's words, among countless beings, all may have what I can learn. Grand and vast voices sounded one after another. These voices seemed to attack from all directions, shaking the soul, making one's Tao heart clear. Saints are also mortals. Mortals can also cover heaven with one hand. I have one thought, transforming myriad celestial realms, transforming the epochs of all heavens. Su Zimo felt his divine body continuously rotating in the void. The scenes before his eyes also constantly changed. Only the voices by his ears seemed imprinted in his memory, unhurriedly sounding. At one moment, heaven-shocking light exploded. An old man's figure appeared before him. Human sovereign? Su Zimo asked in surprise. Who are you? Seemingly seeing Su Zimo, this old man slowly turned his head. My name isn't important. Su Zimo shook his head. It seems you've obtained my saint's box, the old man said to himself. Very well, ultimately a fated person. I ask you, receiving my inheritance, are you willing to bear my great aspiration? What great aspiration? Su Zimo asked. Teaching without discrimination, instructing all beings, the saint said. Transmit what I've learned to the people of the world as much as possible. I really don't have that much time. Su Zimo shook his head. Your great aspiration, why impose it on me? If so, I'm afraid this inheritance has no fate with you. The old man also shook his head. Whether there's fate or not, you don't have the final say. Su Zimo smiled faintly. What I seek, I will obtain without giving up. The old man looked deeply at Su Zimo. His right hand waved. That right hand carried powerful force surging down. Edict power. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. My edict is the power of all beings' great aspiration. The will of all beings must be followed. The old man said indifferently, if you're unwilling to bear my great aspiration, then I can only remake you. What are the great aspirations of all beings? I even dare defy heaven and earth. All beings are but ants. Su Zimo said indifferently, you're now but a wisp of remnant soul. Even if your true body still lived, what could you do to me? Su Zimo directly drew Shadow Tyrant. Gripping the blade handle with both hands, with a boom, the Tao of Annihilation destroyed everything, directly slicing the old man's large hand in two. Su Zimo held the blade again. The blade tip pierced the firmament, directly attacking the old man. However, the next moment, Su Zimo passed through the old man's figure. The opponent's figure had become illusory. Though visible, it couldn't be touched. My remnant soul is already dead. How can you kill a dead person? The old man shook his head, finally sighing. An existence like you, why forcibly seize my inheritance? Wouldn't it be better to leave this inheritance for those who need it more? I heard your inheritance contains things to enter infinite Tao, Su Zimo said. The old man looked deeply at him. How did you learn of this? What, is this matter very secret? Su Zimo asked. In all the world, only 2 people know of this. One is me, the other is... The old man fell silent. You met him? Met whom? Su Zimo was instead confused by what was said. The old man seemed to reminisce. In this old man's life, I've been transmitting my Tao. I consider myself a famous teacher. Among those I've taught, grand emperors, saint sovereigns, even infinite Tao cultivators, there are many. Unfortunately, for only one student do I feel guilt. Su Zimo looked curiously at the old man. The old man continued, it was probably the very first era of the Great Beyond. Back then, the Great Beyond had no living beings yet. As one of the first batch of living beings, this old man went to explore the Great Beyond. The Great Beyond then had countless forbidden and burial grounds, with particularly terrifying monsters. When this old man was venturing through a forbidden ground, I inadvertently stumbled upon a great secret. What secret? Su Zimo asked in surprise. Do you know of the otherworldly demons? The human sovereign asked. Su Zimo shook his head. Otherworldly demons, they're not races from our 9 heavens or great beyond. They live outside the world of the 9 heavens, wholeheartedly wanting to occupy the 9 heavens. Unfortunately, the 9 heavens are heavily defended. These otherworldly demons have no opportunity. The old man explained. Later they discovered the great beyond. Wanting to descend upon the great beyond, using it as a base, then gradually plot against the 9 heavens. After I discovered the otherworldly demons, I united everyone to drive them out. In that battle, even the heavenly Tao intervened, killing all the otherworldly demons and sealing the spatial barrier. However, after killing the otherworldly demons at their former base, I obtained an otherworldly demon stone. This otherworldly demon stone has complete Tao essence and strong thought power within. According to my tests, it has infinite benefits for condensing primordial spirit. A otherworldly demon stone, Su Zimo said with interest. The old man nodded. The otherworldly demon stone is a good thing, but it had already been tainted by the evil demonic power of the otherworldly demons. I didn't use it. Later, the disciples I taught all walked the path of upright and honorable righteousness. So this otherworldly demon stone was sealed away by me, until I met that youth. The old man's eyes closed slightly, seemingly unwilling to recall that memory. This youth's entire family was killed by enemies. His sister and mother were violated. He met me while fleeing. I took him as a disciple, kept him by my side for devoted instruction, hoping that one day I could erase the hatred in his heart. Unfortunately, that hatred had already become a seed, sprouting roots, growing into a towering tree. He cultivated full of hatred. Unlike my other disciples, he walked the evil path, truly the path of demons. When he broke through to infinite Tao realm, I gave him the otherworldly demon stone. At that time, I felt the otherworldly demon stone suited him well and should help him step into infinite Tao. What happened after? Su Zimo asked. He took the otherworldly demon stone. While condensing his primordial spirit and fusing his Tao fruit, an accident suddenly occurred. Within that otherworldly demon stone actually dwelt an otherworldly demon. When the heavenly Tao exterminated the otherworldly demons, it had entered the otherworldly demon stone to avoid detection. The old man sighed. That otherworldly demon deceived everyone. My disciple was ambushed, suffering injuries difficult to heal. For the rest of his life, he could never step into infinite Tao realm. You can understand that feeling. Only by stepping into infinite Tao could he avenge his family. This incident's occurrence completely severed all his hopes. Later, he left the human sovereign palace. Since then, I've never seen him again. What happened to that otherworldly demon? Su Zimo asked. I sealed it away within the otherworldly demon stone, the old man said. I can't kill it. that otherworldly demon hid for hundreds of millions of years. Its strength is powerful, not something an ordinary infinite Tao cultivator can contend with. So that otherworldly demon stone can indeed help people condense primordial spirit, just guarded by an otherworldly demon, Su Zimo said. Your understanding isn't wrong. The old man nodded. One last question. What's in this box? Su Zimo asked. The token controlling the entire human sovereign palace, the old man answered honestly. However, this token needs to be placed in the control altar to be effective. I'm not interested in your inheritance. I only want the otherworldly demon stone, Su Zimo said. As for the inheritance, I have a good candidate in mind. The old man looked at Su Zimo, knowing that in his current remnant soul state, he actually didn't have many choices. He could only say, I'll give you this token. I hope you'll choose a truly suitable person. I will, Su Zimo nodded. The old man's remnant soul seemed unable to hold on anymore. Finally, accompanied by deep sighs, the mist dispersed. Su Zimo felt his consciousness recover again. He opened his eyes. He was back in the courtyard. Luo Mingyue watched him carefully from the side. Young master, just now. It's nothing. Su Zimo waved his hand. When he opened the box again, he discovered it was no longer locked. Very easily opened. Inside, just as the old man said, was a jade token. This jade token, who knew what material it was made of? In any case, the surface was carved with densely packed characters. These characters also weren't very clear. I am in need of this token, Su Zimo said. This was left to me by my mother. Luo Mingyue hesitated. With the token in your hands, you gain nothing but risk losing your life, Su Zimo said. I'll take the token and give you an opportunity in return. How about it? Luo Mingyue hesitated briefly, finally nodded. After Su Zimo put away the token and pondered briefly, he asked, Besides this token, did your mother leave you anything else? Luo Mingyue shook her head. Tell me about your mother, Su Zimo asked. He felt this matter was becoming more and more interesting. The human sovereign's disappeared disciple. And Luo Mingyue's mother, how did she come to possess this token? My mother wasn't willing to mention past matters, Luo Mingyue thought and explained. I only know my mother once lived in the Luo clan for a time. Later, when I was about to be born, she suddenly left the Luo clan and lived in seclusion in the mountains. Not until her death did she tell me these things. Before then, I didn't even know my relationship with this Luo clan. Seems your mother didn't want any connection with this Luo clan. Su Zimo smiled. After chatting briefly with Luo Mingyue, he didn't obtain any useful information. Su Zimo was thinking he should go to the human sovereign palace early to take a look. So at dusk, Su Zimo left the Luo clan alone. According to what Mortal Sovereign said earlier, the place where the human sovereign palace inheritance appeared should be at Mist City. Su Zimo's speed was very fast. Departing that evening, by the next morning dawn, he had already reached Mist City's location. The spirit energy of heaven and earth was very rich here. Ordinary people couldn't see it, but Su Zimo could see a special energy shooting into the sky. This special energy should be the so-called awe-inspiring righteousness. The human sovereign had taught without discrimination for so many years. His human sovereign palace had long nurtured awe-inspiring righteousness. Su Zimo arrived before the human sovereign palace. This place was a desert. No flowers, grass, or trees around. In this desert, a palace suddenly appeared, particularly abrupt. Moreover, around the palace, fierce winds continuously blew. This wasn't ordinary wind. Mixed within should be the corrosive poisonous mist. Even if a saint sovereign encountered it, they'd probably dissolve into pus. Only infinite Tao cultivators could enter. No wonder Mortal Sovereign hadn't entered earlier but waited for the 5 great powers to come. After all, in the great beyond, seemingly only the 5 great powers had infinite Tao cultivators. Around Su Zimo, the power of annihilation surged. He directly charged in. Seemingly sensing the intruder, the raging winds around became even more violent. In an instant, wind rose and clouds gathered, overwhelming everything, as if wanting to bury heaven and earth. Su Zimo snorted coldly. Flames burned around him. Ordinary poisonous mist couldn't survive in flames. But what surprised Su Zimo was his fire primal Tao couldn't eliminate this poisonous mist. On his skin's surface, countless dense black spots had already appeared. Su Zimo could feel his life force constantly fading. Moreover, his internal organs also began to decay. Poisonous mist that consumes life? Su Zimo thought silently. With a wave of his hand, he directly brought out the Tree of Life. The great tree emanating vast life force directly protected Su Zimo's surroundings, dispersing all poisonous mist. Finally, walking out of the corrosive poisonous mist, only then could Su Zimo see the palace's full appearance clearly. This palace was very plain, built with the most ordinary bricks and tiles. Even the windows were ordinary glass. Such a palace, if placed elsewhere, probably no one would notice it. However, even if the palace was plain and dilapidated, because of the awe-inspiring righteousness, it still gave people a feeling of greatness, of boundless learning. Heaven's movement is vigorous. The superior man strives continuously to strengthen himself. Earth's condition is receptive. The superior man carries things with profound virtue. Before the palace gate was this couplet. Su Zimo looked at the tightly closed gate. At the gate entrance stood 18 statues. All identical statues, wearing black demon armor, each mighty and imposing, carrying intense battle intent. When Su Zimo stood before the statues, these 18 demon statues began to move. In their eyes, thick black mist surged. Their movements were uniform, holding different weapons, swords, spears, staffs, and clubs. The Saint Palace cannot be randomly entered. A grand voice came from the demon armor. One more step forward. Kill without mercy. The 18 demons began advancing forward, trying to force Su Zimo back beyond the human sovereign palace's range. Su Zimo knew this would be a hard battle. From these 18 demon armors all emanated Saint Sovereign power. 18 Saint Sovereigns total. He slowly drew Shadow Tyrant. Blade light in his hand rioted. The surrounding void was as fragile as tofu. Su Zimo directly struck one blade at the demon armor, taking the initiative. With a bang, Shadow Tyrant struck the demon armor. Immediately sparks flew. Yet the demon armor was completely undamaged. Kill, kill, kill. The 18 demon armors continuously roared. You can't kill them like that. Suddenly a voice came from nearby. In the human sovereign palace, a weapon saint once emerged. The weapons he forged, even saint sovereigns cannot pierce them. They've already reached the tempering of edict power. Hearing this voice, Su Zimo suddenly turned his head. There was someone here, yet he had just had no perception whatsoever. Mortal Sovereign stood nearby with a light smile. It's you. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. Alas, why was it necessary? I originally didn't want to expose my identity. Mortal Sovereign shook his head. He slowly raised his head, an evil smile on his face. Blood light flashed in his eyes. Because those who know my identity must die. He pronounced the word die very heavily. Su Zimo paid no attention, instead saying indifferently, Disciple of the human sovereign. You're that disciple whose foundation was destroyed by the otherworldly demon stone. Seems you met that old man, Mortal Sovereign said coldly. That thing should be in your hands. You mean the jade token? Su Zimo asked. Hand it over. Mortal Sovereign nodded. I can let you die more comfortably. Somewhat interesting. Su Zimo took out the jade token. You want this jade token to control the entire human sovereign palace. Seems that old guy told you everything. Mortal Sovereign frowned. If so, the more you know, the more certain your death. Saying this, baleful energy filled Mortal Sovereign's surroundings. In an instant, before Su Zimo's eyes even appeared an illusion, as if a purgatory blood sea rushed toward him. Corpses piled into mountains. Fresh blood flowed into deep seas. Though just an illusion, that bloody smell seemed to truly exist. I heard you can't reach infinite Tao realm? Hopeless for life? Su Zimo asked. But at this moment, he felt the aura on Mortal Sovereign was in no way inferior to infinite Tao cultivators. Who says I can't reach infinite Tao? My master can steal heaven and exchange earth. There's nothing in the world he cannot do. Mortal Sovereign sneered. Even beyond infinite Tao, we can also achieve. You must not be awake from dreaming. Su Zimo shook his head and smiled. Beyond infinite Tao? The spirit energy in your body is merely violently stimulated, not true infinite Tao. Moreover, this violent power, though strengthening you, is constantly consuming your life. If I'm not mistaken, you yourself can't hold on much longer. Hearing Su Zimo's words, Mortal Sovereign snorted coldly. Enough to kill you. When this overwhelming blood sea attacked, Mortal Sovereign's speed was extremely fast, almost becoming a bloodline, instantly disappearing. Su Zimo directly drew Shadow Tyrant from his back, sneering, even true infinite Tao cultivators I don't fear, much less you, a false infinite Tao. In Su Zimo's long blade, endless blade intent rioted. With a boom, this blade destroyed heaven and earth, directly splitting the void in two. The sound continuously roared. One blade cut through obstacles, annihilating everything, directly splitting the blood sea in two. The blood sea roared. Even destroyed, it still wanted to submerge Su Zimo. Scram! Su Zimo opened the infinite Samsara demon eye. The intent of reincarnation twisted everything. The void shattered, swallowing all the blood sea inside. Su Zimo's eyes solidified. His figure moved rapidly, directly kicking toward the figure in the blood sea. This kick collided with Mortal Sovereign. Blood Sea Prison. Mortal Sovereign roared. Countless blood seas split apart, transforming into blood threads, trying to imprison Su Zimo within. Creation-devouring Godfinger. Su Zimo waved his large hand. One finger gushed creation power, with devastating momentum, swallowing heaven and devouring earth. Endless blood energy overflowed. The blood sea prison was torn apart. This creation-devouring Godfinger directly attacked Mortal Sovereign's brow. Mortal Sovereign's expression changed greatly. This finger's range was very large. He had no possibility of escape. Blood Sea Tao Fruit. Condense. Mortal Sovereign gave an angry roar. The blood sea that had been scattered reformed, transforming into a shield-shaped Tao fruit. This Tao fruit was blood-red, just like a heart. Interesting. Su Zimo looked at the blood sea edict, laughing loudly. Perfect timing. Let me taste your blood sea edict's flavor. What do you want to do? Mortal Sovereign frowned slightly. Su Zimo's speed was extremely fast. When walking through the air, the void beneath his feet couldn't bear this force and continuously split. The next moment, Su Zimo had already walked through the air to above Mortal Sovereign's head. One foot stepped on his blood sea Tao fruit. Around Su Zimo, the absolute annihilation Tao fruit likewise condensed into form. Devour! Su Zimo roared. This absolute annihilation Tao fruit was condensed by him using all attack forces in heaven and earth. To say it was the strongest attack Tao fruit wasn't wrong. Most importantly, the absolute annihilation Tao fruit not only possessed destructive power but also devouring ability. Simply put, devouring other Tao fruit's power for his own use. What did you do? Mortal Sovereign's face filled with panic. He could clearly feel his blood sea Tao fruit was afraid. The power belonging to the Tao fruit was weakening, as if being devoured. Simultaneously, around Su Zimo, the blood sea surged magnificently. Endless blood sea gathered toward the annihilation Tao fruit. Damn it! Today's humiliation, you'll repay in the future. Mortal Sovereign raged. He seemingly also sensed something. Actually split his blood sea Tao fruit in two. One half he allowed Su Zimo to devour. The other half carried his severely wounded body, fleeing into the void. Splitting the Tao fruit apart, this injury was already somewhat irreversible. Without heaven-defying divine medicine, the Tao fruit probably could never recover. However, Mortal Sovereign's luck was still pretty good, because his blood sea Tao fruit was originally false. So it hadn't reached the irreversible stage. What made Su Zimo curious What person could actually help mortal sovereign condense this blood sea Dao fruit? Even a false Dao fruit, this wasn't something ordinary people could do. At least ordinary infinite Dao cultivators couldn't do this. It seemed he'd have to ask the true martial progenitor when he returned. However, letting the opponent escape left Su Zimo somewhat regretful. At this moment, he was held back by absorbing this other half of the blood sea Dao fruit and couldn't pursue. Su Zimo could only focus on absorbing this half Dao fruit's power. The power grew stronger and stronger. Su Zimo could clearly sense that after absorbing this blood sea power, the spirit energy in his body boiled. Already unable to suppress it, wanting to break through the 11th meridian gate. When condensing the Dao fruit earlier, he almost shattered this meridian gate. If he condensed primordial spirit again, he could probably completely break through the meridian gate. The spirit energy in his body rioted, like a magnificent long river, continuously pounding. Finally, under Su Zimo's forceful suppression, it calmed down. Seems I need to condense primordial spirit as soon as possible, Su Zimo thought silently. In his eyes, blood light flashed briefly. Su Zimo's heart sank. This blood sea had problems. Inside seemed mixed with intense killing rules. He absorbed too much and even had thoughts of slaughter. Fortunately, his strength was powerful enough to forcibly suppress it. Su Zimo raised his head, looking at the 18 demons before him. These 18 demons had already returned to their original positions. When Su Zimo intruded again, the 18 demons moved once more. Halt those who approach. Those who trespass the Saint Palace. Kill without mercy. Perfect timing. My second form slay myriad immortals has already taken shape. How about you all evaluate it? Su Zimo raised Shadow Tyrant, saying softly, 9 hells desolation made people fall into the 9 hells, never to be reborn. As for this slay myriad immortals, one blade shattered the 9 heavens. Beneath the firmament appeared a supreme heavenly court. This heavenly court seemed to be the world's master. Palaces, immortal courts, Taoist temples, and spirit gardens rose from the ground, standing in heaven and earth.